we are back at it again. This is Finnigan 40k Surrounded. You guys saw their founding chapter last battle. This is the Black Templar. This is the Crimson Fists. They are successor chapters of the Imperial Fists, still Sons of Dorn. So I consider these two chapters brothers as opposed to being cousins because they do come from the same gene seed. I'll cover each of the forces here and then talk a little bit about their lore, and then we're going to get into this one. Looks like the views have been pretty awesome so far. That first video was around 2 hours, 20 minutes, and the last one was almost 3 hours. I had no idea it was that long, but it was an amazing fight. Not sure if this one's going to go as long, but if it does, you guys seem to be enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, so let's just keep going. So these are the Black Templar. This is a chapter-specific army. So there's models in here that are not available to any of the other forces, very similar to the Blood Angels and Dark Angels that we've seen previously. The Ultramarines and Imperial Fists had a little bit more generic units, I will say. The only kind of generic unit here that would be open to other chapters is the Blade Guard Veterans. They are still very Crusader looking, very Black Templar-ish, some very, very cool models. We do have this force being led by Chaplain Grimaldus and his servitor kind of posse there. Really cool banner as well for Grimaldus. He is the head chaplain of the Black Templar and a zealous, devout follower of the Emperor. We have some sword brethren here, which are pretty much a unit of 5 sergeants if you're looking at other chapters. So they are very potent in both hand-to-hand. They also have some pretty good ranged weapons, but these guys are going to be the heavy hitters for the Black Templar for the hand-to-hand combat melee stuff. And then in the back, we have a chapter-specific Black Templar squad. So this is made up of initiates, which are full brothers of the Black Templar, and then neophytes, which are actually scout models. Very, very cool. So kind of in other chapters, your scouts fight in their own. I think it's the Phobos Marines have been added in there, but I think it's the 10th. So the 10th like company of the chapter. And each chapter usually has 1,000. The Black Templar also do not follow that. They are anyone that's following these guys don't know actually how big their chapter is, and they have followed in their founder Sigismund, who was the first captain of the Imperial Fists during the Horus Heresy and 30k. So they've followed his kind of crusading upbringing, and these guys travel the galaxy trying to take over worlds in the Emperor's name. And again, they are hardcore zealots, so they will kill other Space Marine units. They kill Xenos, they kill humans, they kill everybody. Not bad, just in their minds, they're doing it for the Emperor and expanding kind of his I don't know, his realm, we'll say. They're very old school, kind of knight feel to them. They have some like very ornate backpacks, really cool, like chandeliers almost hanging off the back. The axes are all old school. Very, very cool chapter. But they're not as cool as my favorite chapter, the Crimson Fists. So this wasn't always my favorite chapter. I think when I was a kid, I was more kind of Blood Angels, Ultramarines, because that's what I started with. But then recently, well, maybe in the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, 10 years, I really started to pick up Warhammer again. And then during COVID, it got out of control. And this is, a massive hobby that's very expensive, as you guys know. But I've started to collect Crimson Fist. And if you guys see my intro video, I almost have an entire chapter of Crimson Fists. So I have different shelves that are allocated to different companies. This one is made up of some first company veterans. We have the chapter master, Pedro Cantor, and then we have an intercessor squad of 5, and then a redemptor dreadnought. So this is a massive dreadnought compared to the old ones. That is actually a Primaris Marine that is entombed inside the sarcophagus there. So it has to be a bigger unit to be able to hold them, because they are probably a head and a half taller than the first generation Space Marines. Pedro Cantor, he doesn't have a new model, but I created this one based off of Tor Garadon, who's an Imperial Fist captain. I think he's second or third company, because we saw Darnath Lysander, which is their first captain during the last fight. So he has Tor Garadon's body, and then I put on Marneus Calgar's helmeted head from his previous model that was not in the first fight. So in his kind of like souped up, I don't know, his power armor, but it's like Primaris power armor, and a very cool model. So there's Dorn's Arrow, which is the supposed to be Stormbolter on the gauntlet of Pedro Cantor, but I've actually just cut off like an old school bolt pistol and put it on. It still works, and I love the model. The paint schemes here too, also, like I've been collecting these guys for so long. Some of them are contrast paints, you can see here, and then I have spray painted guys as well. So their main color scheme is, of course, the navy blue and then the crimson. If they are veterans, they have double gloves that are crimson. So both of their gauntleted hands, one has a power fist here, as you can see, but both of their hands would be crimson. And then if they're just a kind of initiated brother, they have one gauntlet, which is their left, that is crimson. And then you can see back here, he doesn't have two fists, but this guy probably was a veteran back in the day. He definitely has the crimson power fist with the assault cannon on there. This is going to be a great model for fighting some of the bigger enemies. I'm hoping it's going to be able to stick around and fight for quite a while, because it cost a lot of points. As you guys can see, this army is the smallest that we've had in so far, but we're still following the rules here. Both are coming in under 1,000. So the Crimson Fists were originally, their founder is Alexis Pollux, and he's got a very cool story. He was also an Imperial Fist back in 30K, so one of Sigismund's very, good buddies and friends. And there's like Fafnir ran a bunch of the very famous Imperial Fists, but he actually lost kind of the skin of his hand when he was trying to save a buddy on Inuit, which is their home planet. And from there, like also Alexis Pollux was like a massive space marine, even for back then, like not Primarch size, but he was probably a Primaris sized marine back then. Very cool model. He's also in my intro video, but he was called the Crimson Fist because he literally had his hand skin like ripped off when he was trying to save his buddy as they were getting initiated into the Imperial Fists. And then after, when the Horus Heresy ended, they were, pretty much commanded, or at least directed by Rabute Gilliman to start to break into smaller chapters. A lot of founding chapters were from that, and these are two of them. So Crimson Fists from Alexis Pollux, and we have Sigismund's The Emperor's Champion, Black Templar. So we're going to get to this one right away. I have to figure out where I want to put the Crimson Fists. I don't know. It's always been kind of the Codex specific chapters on this side so far, and then our like outsider chapters over here. Templars are definitely, Black Templars are definitely an outsider chapter. They do not have all of the Oath of Moment stuff, but since the Crimson Fists are a mix of Imperial Fists and Ultramarines, they follow the Codex to a T, but they also have that old school Imperial Fist just stubbornness to them. So this is going to be a really good fight. I hope it's not going to be over too quickly for them, as they are a small army, but I'll get them placed, and then we will come back and show you guys where everybody is, and then I will line the Tyranid up. I used to call them Tyranid as a kid, but they're actually Tyranid, and we'll place them on the field next and see where everybody's at. Before we get the Tyranid placed, I'm going to cover where the Black Templar are and what I'm doing. So they have taken the side that the Ultramarines were on last fight, and then the Imperial Fists just before this one. So yeah, Ultramarines first, Imperial Fists last fight. The Sword Brethren are right up against the wall here. They're going to be taking on some bigger enemies there in the medium round. In the first round, I think they'll do quite well against the Hormagaunts or whatever faces off against them. It could be the Winged Tyranid Prime, it could be the Barbgaunts. We'll have to see what I want to do with the Tyranid side, because I want to make sure that they have the best strategy possible. We have the Black Templar squad here, and I think I made an error at the start. So it is 6 initiated brothers, and then there are 4 neophytes that have not been initiated, and that's what's there, because I want to make sure the neophytes have a 4+ save, and their the regular initiated brothers have a 3+, so it's important that I make sure I get those numbers right. Grimaldus is up top here, going to be trying to give any buffs that he can out to that squad underneath him. And then to round it off, we have the Blade Guard veterans over here. You can just see absolutely sick models. I love the Blade Guard veterans. I have a ton for a bunch of my different armies. The Black Templar ones, they'll look like sick with the black, the white, and then you have the Templar cross there. St. George, I guess. Over on this side, we have the Crimson Fist. So starting it up, Intercessors. They're a smaller army here, so I was going to maybe put them up in the tower. Maybe I'll do that second round, but I want them down here so they can lay some bolt rifle fire down. And then they have the Primaris Dreadnought, Redemptor Dreadnought in behind them to give support to either side. The graphic at the start showed you guys how many points there are, but this is 465 for the Crimson Fist, so under that 500 max for each force, and then the Black Templar are coming in at 470. So a pretty expensive force from the Crimson Fist. I'll see. I haven't used my Redemptor Dreadnought, so I wanted to get him in. And then over here we have the veterans here, and we have Pedro Cantor, their chapter master, in behind. I have to check his stats. Actually, I'm not sure if they've changed in the last little while, if he's got any super good buffs to help out his guys, but he is there. So that is our Imperium forces for this one. Crimson Fists, Black Templar. I'm going to set up the Tyranid, come back, show you guys that. And then I think I'm going to go watch some Olympics. The Olympics just started. We got the opening ceremonies up there. Got to cheer on Team Canada. And I'm super excited for those events. So over to the Tyranid here in just a sec. And that'll be it for the night. But for you guys, again, a couple seconds. For me, could be, a day. We'll see. First wave of Tyranid is set here during our third battle. We have a wall of 20 Hormagaunts, and behind them the Tyranid Prime, all within range to pounce on our sword brethren. We've seen in the past, if these Hormagaunts are not thinned out, that could be up to 60 attacks coming in, plus the additional attacks from the Tyranid Winged Prime. So the sword brethren as well do have okay ranged weapons. Some of them don't have any at all. It might be a heavy bolt pistol. We've got a pirate pistol in there, some combat weapons, so we'll see what they can do, but it's definitely not like a wall of 5 or 10 intercessors with bolt rifles, so we will see how much they can thin. Over here, a very small amount of Ripper Swarms was placed in front of the Black Templar squad and Grimaldus, and that is because this is literally just to pick away at wounds from the Imperium forces here, and the Tyranid were needed elsewhere to start taking out the bigger targets. For instance, the Barbgaunts here, and they've got one of their little dead Termagant buddies behind them. They are going to be firing in at the Blade Guard veterans. The Blade Guard veterans as well do not have great ranged weapons, so maybe they can chip off a couple of wounds with a shoot. They're not in range to be able to get into hand-to-hand combat, which is where they are most potent. So the Hive Mind is really strategizing, doing some great placement here of its units. And the Barbgaunts, as we've seen as well, have the ability to get up to 30 shots at strength 5. Don't quote me, but I believe that is it. So that could be tricky. Over on this side, we have another wall of 20 Hormagaunts coming in at 5 intercessors. They do have bolt rifles, but even if all of them fire, all of them wound, that's going to be 10 shots in total. So we will see how that goes. Unless they have the rapid fire, I'm not remembering that right now, so maybe some more, but we'll see how they do. Got to get some good rolls regardless. In behind them is the Biovore. I have to decide if I want to use its actual cannon ability with the Spore Mine firing straight out, or if I'm going to start dropping Spore Mines in here. It's just one turn, so one Spore Mine floating around for the entire battle. Not always the best idea, but it does have the Redemptor Dreadnought in sight. And the Hive Mind here as well. Great strategy. It has 10 Hormagaunts on top of the flat top rock that the Redemptor Dreadnought is going to have to fire into, because he does not want to get jumped by all of those creatures, which means this other wall of 20 Hormagaunts he's not going to be able to fire at, unless he wants to be a hero. Well, he already is. He's fighting even though he's pretty much undead. But yeah, if he wants to put all of his firepower down here, you could definitely help out his chapter master. I may end up doing that. It's just, even with a few Hormagaunts, if they get good rolls, it could chip the wounds away from our Redemptor Dreadnought, and we need that Redemptor Dreadnought to be fighting the bigger enemies later on. And then here we have the Stern Guard Veterans. They do have a Pyre Cannon, which is very good for killing skittering enemies like Hormagaunts. That's kind of why it was developed. And then in behind them, hopefully buffing them out there, is Pedro Cantor, their chapter master, to at least give them morale. And he's with his first company there, so we'll see how that goes. We're going to get into it here probably tomorrow, but for you guys it'll be a couple seconds, and we'll see how this one kicks off. I've been rolling incredibly well for my Imperium models. They've actually, both forces that have been in here have had models survive. So we had Blood Angels survive, Ultramarines survive, Imperial Fist survive, and Dark Angels survive. Let's see if we can keep that streak going with the Imperium models here. And yeah, good luck. Let's see if the Emperor is shining down on them for this fight. Time for the ranged attack for our Crimson Fists. I'm going to start on this side of the table this time. There was no movement by the Crimson Fists. They're going to be locking down in their spots, getting any kind of bonuses that they can get for heavy weapons, for anything that's going to help with their shoots. I'm actually going to be using Pedro Cantor here to soup up the Stern Guard veterans. He's a really good leader, actually, if he's leading Stern Guard veterans too, and I had no idea. So these rules kind of come off of the lore of like Rin's world, which was the Crimson Fist's homeworld. They were almost wiped out by a Wog. I believe it was Snickrot was the war boss that came down. And Pedro and a handful of his Marines were able to hold them off. There's actually a lot of Crimson Fist art on the front of the early like 3rd edition rule book, I believe. And then it's also been replicated a couple times. I think I've seen it with the Ultramarines as well, but it was a Crimson Fist Last Stand. And you can see Pedro Cantor in the middle of all of them. If I can find the graphic, maybe I'll throw it up. If not, we're going to keep rolling here. So I'm just going to read a few abilities. So on top of the Oath of Moment, they also have something called the Oath of Rin, which is from Pedro Cantor specifically. So if you have a chapter master of any other Space Marine chapter and it's not Pedro, they're not going to have this because this associates to Rin's world and what happened there. So once per battle, at the start of either player's command phase, which would be now, this model can use this ability. When it does, until the end of the turn, add 1 to the attack's characteristics of weapons equipped by models in this model's unit. I'm actually going to be locking that in right now to try to take down this wall of Hormagaunts in front of them, and the less Hormagaunts are going to be pouncing on them during the Tyranid turn, the better. There's also To the Last. So this is probably going to come into play a little bit later, maybe during the medium, or it could come in now. While this model is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. If that unit is below its starting strength, you can add 1 to the wound roll as well if that unit is below half strength. There is one called Inspiring Commander, but it has to do with objective control points. We're not doing that here. This is literally a surrounded last stand fight. So here we go. We're going to get rolling. I'm actually going to start up this time with Pedro. So let's get Dorn's arrow going. It is a rapid fire 2 weapon. He's definitely within the 12 inches that allows that. So it's going to be 4 dice hitting on a 2+. Aye. It is, however, an Oath of Moment chapter. I'm just going to make sure. Yep, they do have Oath of Moment, so I'm going to be able to re-roll these 2. Another one fell off. I'm actually using red dice. Maybe that's the problem. I've always started with black dice, but I saw the crimson dice. It's the Crimson Fists, so I grabbed it. I'm used to doing that. So we do have 3 that have gone through. With To the Last, while this model is leading that unit, add 1 to the hit roll if that unit is below starting strength. So we can't do that yet, but we are still going to be able to use for the wound roll, if required, an additional +1. So these have all fired. It is strength 5 versus toughness 3. It is going to be 3s to wound. Oof, this is not looking good. So even if I flip this to a 2, it's not high enough. So 1 attack has gone through. It's a -1 to AP, which brings the Hormagaunt up to a 6+ save. It did not make the save, and it is 2 damage per with Dorn's arrow. So that is 2 dead Hormagaunts from Pedro right off the bat. He's actually quite a good character. He's still like... In the app, he's got his old model that's like a 1st gen Space Marine, which looks kind of ridiculous if he was leading his Primaris Stern Guard. So I'm glad that I created that new model that I showed you guys at the start. So now we're going to move over to the Sternguard Veteran Squad. The big thing here too with that ability that he has given them, just want to make sure that I'm following it again. So we're going to be adding 1 to the attacks characteristics of weapons equipped in models in this unit. So actually, yeah, we can't go now, but I have to make sure that that's covered. So it's going to be an additional attack here because of Oath of Rin being locked in. So we're going to do Sternguard Veterans. Their ranged weapons, we're going to use the Pyre Cannon right off the bat. I'm going over black dice now because that was not a great roll. Very superstitious when it comes to my dice colors. Here we go. So D6 plus 1, and we're going to add an additional 1 on here because of Oath of Rin. Oh, wow. That's not good. So we get 2 dice, 2 attacks. So it was D6, which is a 1 plus 1, plus 2 because of the Rin's Oath of Rin or Rin's Oath. This is a strength 6. I was really hoping for... Oh, it hits automatically, so that's good. So since it's a torrent weapon, I think I've explained this in the past, it does hit automatically. It's strength 6, toughness 3, 2s to wound. At least we got all that. So 3 are through. It's a -1 to AP, 6 plus save for the Hormagaunts. They have all failed. Sadly, only 1 damage per, but that is 3 less Hormagaunts that are going to be likely pouncing on them next turn. I always move back to my table here just to make sure that I'm tracking how many models have been killed, because we're not doing a graphic for this one like Last Stand, but I definitely want to keep that going. I'm just checking here my other Sternguard veterans. We have the combi weapons for all of them. And there is a... Yeah, Pirate Cannon, combi weapon. My Sergeant has a bolt pistol though, and I'm not seeing that in the profile. So it's weird. A lot of the new balanced data slates that have come down have like affected the actual loadouts of a lot of stuff. Okay, no, here it is. Sternguard bolt pistol. Perfect. Okay, I was just losing it. So this is going to be 2 attacks actually because of that Rin's Oath. So it is hitting on a 3+. This is usually just 1 attack. Both are through. Strength 4, toughness 3, 3s to wound. Both of those are through. That's good. Regular save. There's no AP with this, so it's going to be a 5+. And 2 more Hormagaunts have died. That's a 4 and a 1. Take them out of here as well. And of course, my Hormagaunts are flopping over as I'm putting them on the table here because they don't have the ability to keep each other there. Lean one guy in the tail, I guess that helps. All right, so now we still have our 3 combi weapons. I'm not a big fan in this because we don't really use devastating wounds or anything like that. So I'm going to use these Sternguard bolt rifles. And with that, this is going to be crazy because of the Rin's Oath that's in here. So it is heavy now, which means it's going to be a 2+ instead of a 3+. Each Sternguard bolt rifle is usually 2 attacks. So 2, 4, 6. However, we have rapid fire 1. So that is going to be 1, 2, 3. And that's because we are half distance away. So 12 inches. Which gives us that addition, and there's going to be 3 additional attacks because of the Oath of Rin. 1, 2, 3, or Rin's Oath. So we've got a lot of attacks. I'm very happy that I took Sternguard veterans and intercessors here because it looks like Pedro, and I didn't know this before, maxes them out the most that he can. So since this is heavy, it's usually a 3+. It is now going to be a 2+. And I can reroll this guy. Picked it up, perfect. So this is a lot of shots coming down. It is strength 4, toughness 3, 3s to wound. And I can add 1 to one of these. So this guy here is going to become a 3. This one comes out because it did not roll high enough. All of those are 3+. I'm just going to use these dice as a Tyranid save. No AP. Oh no, there is 1 AP, so it's going to be a save of 6+ instead of 5+. And that is fantastic. So it's 1 damage per, 1 was saved, but this is how many Hormagaunts we've been killed. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. That is exactly what I needed these Sternguard veterans to do. I'm actually really happy that I used that bolt rifle profile because you get more shots The combat weapon, a little bit stronger. It's got, if you're using the rules, devastating wounds, also anti-infantry +4, but you're losing all of those extra shots that I had. So I'm just going to remove the remaining 3. So from that, there are 4 Hormagaunts left. I'm probably going to do the shoots off camera here for the remainder. So we have the Redemptor Dreadnought, we have the 5-man Intercessor Squad, and then I will come back and show you guys what's going on with that. This was my Oath of Moment target as well. So that's not going to be able to be used by the Redemptor Dreadnought or the Intercessors, but I'm hoping that they get some great rolls. And I'll be back in just a sec to show you guys how many they've killed. I think that might be one of the best first rounds I've seen from a chapter against the skittering horde type enemies. We rolled for Pedro and the Sternguard veterans. They were able to reduce 20 Hormagaunts down to 4 with the abilities that he gave them and all the weaponry that they had. Over here, absolutely incredible. The Redemptor Dreadnought fired both of his Gatling cannons actually over to support the Crimson Fists that were facing 20 Hormagaunts over here. This thing is worth 200 points of the 500 that's available to them for this type of rule that I've set for Surrounded. And it was 200 points well spent. Perfect firepower to be able to take out the Hormagaunt models. So you have 12 shots coming from the big Gatling cannon. There's an additional 8 from the one that's attached to the Crimson Fist Power Fist. Heavy bolters there too, so like storm bolters, and then you also have the Icarus grenade pod on the top. So he was able to fire into this unit even after he had helped wipe out those Hormagaunts, and there are only 4 remaining on the hillside. And then these intercessors here, that rule that they have, like with Oath of Moment going, as this chapter gets both the weapon skill roll and then also the +1 to the wound roll. They had 20 attacks for the 5 of them because they have that special ability that allows them to do 4 shots per. Rolled super well, was able to reroll anything that had fallen off, and they just completely shredded the Hormagaunt line. So they're good to go. The only thing over here is the Biovore. We'll see what I want to do with that thing. And then the 4 Hormagaunts up on top of the hill. They could actually jump down and attack Pedro and his unit. And then there's the 4 Hormagaunts here. So we're getting over now to our Black Templar. It is their shoot. They have some very incredible abilities that I will get to when we get to the tray. They actually do not have Oath of Moment. I think that changed when they got their new Codex. I do have their Codex, but I have not looked it over too much. So we'll get into their abilities and the vows that they have as Black Templar. Very, very cool lore that they've created for them, and very chapter lore specific, so very cool. And we'll see how they do. I'm hoping that the same kind of firepower can come down from that Templar Brethren squad. And then the Sword Brethren's here facing off against 20 Hormagaunts. That might be tricky. Ripper Swarms in front of Grimaldus and the squad here. And then we have the Barbgaunts facing down the Blade Guard Veterans. The Blade Guard Veterans do have heavy bolt pistols and a plasma pistol there in the middle, so they might be able to do a bit of damage. But we'll see what the Tyranid do on their next turn. But first things first, Black Templar, we'll get to the shoots, get a little bit in the tray, and then we will see how this turn finishes up. Okay, so to get kind of the main chunk here, I'm going to try to, get at least one shoot in here on camera. So this is going to be Grimaldus, his retinue of servitors, and then the Crusade squad in front of him. I'm just going to read the abilities that Grimaldus has, so I'm not missing anything, and also their Templar vows. So as I said just a second ago, they do not have Oath of Moment at all. So they don't get any of those rerolls that the other chapters do. At least the Dark Angels were able to take advantage of that. The Blood Angels could take advantage of that. In this case, there are none available to the Templar vows, or to the Black Templar. But with this ability, I'll read the lore, it's pretty cool. On the eve of battle, the Black Templar gather to be led in prayer and contemplation by their champions. United in their hatred of the foe, they swear a mighty vow to uphold in the battle ahead. So that would definitely be Chaplain Grimaldus doing his, seances and his, emperor zealotishness. So the first one that you can choose is Abhor the Witch, Destroy the Witch. That has to do with Psychers. We're not going to use that because there's no Psychic models here, actually, in any of the Tyranid turns. I do not believe we have any Psychic except maybe the Malceptor. possibly. So that might come into play, but right now, no. Accept any challenge, no matter the odds. Each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, if the strength characteristic of that attack is less than or equal to the toughness characteristic of the target, add 1 to the wound roll. So that's probably going to come in play. I don't think I'm going to activate that one right now. Suffer not the unclean to live. This unit is eligible to declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back, and each time a model in this unit makes a pile-in or consolidation move, it does not need to end that move closer to the closest model, provided it ends that move as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. I don't do fallbacks, things like that, so we're not going to be using that one. This one may be it. So uphold the honor of the Emperor. At the end of your command phase, if this unit is within range of an objective marker, actually no, because we're not doing objective marker missions here. So you can choose one of these per unit, it would seem. So if your army faction is Adeptus Astartes, at the start of your first battle round, select one of the following vows to be active for your Adeptus Astartes. In this case, it's Black Templar. I think they made a mistake there. It's not Adeptus Astartes, because that would be everybody. While a vow is active from your unit, from your army, that unit has the associated ability shown below. So this can be per unit, which is pretty crazy. So I could have one on the Sword Brethren, one on Grimaldus, one on the Crusader squad. Can't do the Blade Guard veterans because they're more generic. But maybe since they're underneath Black Templar right now, it's possible. But what we are going to lock in here, and I think for every single unit probably for the remainder of the game, because it plays most into what's going on here. So accept any challenge no matter the odds, and that is each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, if the strength characteristic of that attack is less than or equal to the toughness characteristic of the target, add 1 to the wound roll. That's going to be massive against some of the enemies that are coming up. But we're going to start this off. I'm going to use Grimaldus first, I think. So he doesn't have an amazing barrage of weaponry here. His servitors are all hand-to-hand combat servitors. They don't have heavy bolters on their shoulder or anything like gun servitors. So he does have a plasma pistol, and we're going to start up with that. And the black dice plays perfectly here because it is our Templar. So this is, I'm not doing a supercharge yet. It's a 2+ to hit, strength 7. Didn't get it, and he can't reroll unless I've missed an ability of his. So that's the one thing about a plasma pistol. They only have one attack. So I'm just going to check here. Litanies of the Devout. While this unit is leading a unit and contains a Chaplain Grimaldus model, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack. So this does not help for range. I have to get these guys into range likely. And then the Temple Relics are something he does have as well. So I can read that. This is specific to Chaplain Grimaldus because each of his servitors have a Temple Relic, and I can show you guys a little bit closer. You may have seen them in the start video. But Banner of the Emperor Victorious. Add 1 to advance and charge rolls made for this unit. Not going to be doing that. Column from the Major Altar. Add 1 to the toughness characteristic of the models in this unit. That's really good. And then Water from the Stoop of Elucidation. Improve the armor penetration characteristics of melee weapons equipped by models in this unit by 1. That's also good. So since I can lock this in my command phase, for this one, I am going to add armor penetration by 1 because it's possible as Ripper Swarms couldn't get into hand-to-hand combat, and Grimaldus is close enough that this is actually going to be for any unit that he is leading. So that's going to fall over to the Crusade squad. So didn't shoot this time, covered a whole bunch of stuff. We're in the tray again quite a bit. It might be another 2.5 hour video. We'll have to see, but we're loving it, so it's all good, right? Here we go. So that was a miss. We do have our Crusader squad. They have range weapons. The neophytes at the back have bolt rifles, as do the initiates in the front. I'm just going to check here. So no, it's actually called the neophyte firearm. So it's got the exact same profile as a bolt rifle, except the -1 to AP. So let's start with them first. So there's 2, 4, 6, 8 shots. 2, 4, 6, and 8. The neophytes are given, I guess, they look more like little old school bolt guns from 1st gen Marines, and then the initiates have the bolt rifles, it seems. So here we go, still hitting on a 3+. Yeah, and they don't have the heavy ability either. That's another thing with the neophyte firearm, and they don't fire as far. So it's kind of a lesser powerful bolt rifle, it looks like. Needed 3+, can't reroll this, so these come out. 4 are through. It's 4 versus 2, so 4 strength, 2 toughness, 2s to wound. Can't add anything to this either because they don't have Oath of Moment. So 3, 3, 4, 6. Grab my 4 dice here. No -1 to AP, so this is going to be a regular 6+ save for the Ripper Swarms. Still pretty tough to make. They made 1 save. 1 damage per, so we have 1, 2, 3 damage. The Neophytes have almost taken out a Ripper Swarm base, so that's good. From 4 wounds down to 1 wound. So good job, Neophytes. They're trying to earn their way into the Black Templars Initiated Brothers. We also have a Pyre Pistol from the Sergeant of this unit. I'm just going to make sure that that's within range. It is, and I'm hoping that I can get some multiple attacks here. So the Pyre Pistol is D6 damage. So 2, not amazing. That's how many attacks we're going to get out of it, because you can picture like he's just gouting a bunch of flame over the Hormagaunts. It hits automatically, so it's a 4 strength, toughness 2. This is going to be 2s to wound. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. Hope that wasn't too loud. So both are through. There is no AP, so it's going to be the regular 6+ save of the Ripper Swarms. Both have been failed, and the 1 Ripper Swarm has been killed. Another has been brought down to 3 wounds. So we have 2 Ripper Swarms left, 1 with 4, 1 with 3 wounds. Just going to add this to our casualties for the Tyranid. There we go. And we still have the entire initiated bolt rifles here. I'm just going to check and see if they have anything. Oh, yes, I'm glad I checked. They have a Pyre Blaster. So this might cook at least 1 base of Ripper Swarms. They got some good shit, because a lot of, like, an Intercessor unit doesn't have a Pyre Blaster. And it's very specific here because they're kind of like Sisters of Battleish. They have like their ritualistic weapons. So like the Holy Bolter, Holy Flamer, not so much the Holy Melta. The Templar like the Burnie weapons though. Kind of similar to our Salamanders. We're going to see them go because a lot of them have Pyre Blasters. We've got tons with Pyre Blasters with the Salamanders, and that's very lore specific too. But they're going to be the next battle. You have to get back to this one. So here we go. Pyre Blaster. It is a strength 5 as well, so higher than that Pyre Pistol. It is D6 attacks. That is garbage. So not rolling as well today. We got a 1 attack in. Hits automatically, 5 against 2. It's going to be 2 to wound. Got a 6. Thank God we got that. 0 to AP, so it is going to be a 6+ save. Didn't save it, and that is 1 additional wound. I was really hoping for a 6 there. So our wounded Ripper Swarm base, I'm just changing out their token, has 2 wounds now allocated to them. So they have 2 left. And now we're going to get over to our Initiated Brothers with their bolt rifles. So we have 2, 4, 6. There we go. Don't have any of the extra Oath of Moment rolls. Don't have any of the extra attacks that are allocated to regular Intercessor units, because these guys do not fall into that template. So here we go. It is going to be 3+ to hit. 2+ actually, because they haven't moved. So 2 fell off. Can't reroll that, sadly. Strength 4, toughness 2, 2s to wound. Nice, all those are through. We needed that big time. It is still a -1 to AP. The Ripper Swarms cannot make that. It would put them up to a 7+ save. They do not have cover. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4 Ripper Swarms wounds. So that means that we have got 1 base done and another base left with 2 wounds. So they've been able to wipe out 2 full Ripper Swarm bases. 1 remains with half of its wounds as well. I am going to do the rest of the turn here off camera for the Sword Brethren and for the Blade Guard veterans, and I will come back and show you guys that. Also try to kind of show you guys Grimaldus and his unit, what they look like, because they've got some really cool relics and stuff. So be back in a sec. There we go. Start up on Chaplain Grimaldus. So he's got the banner there. There's the water. Very sort of Catholic, Christian. They have the water bowl with like I'm not a religious person, so I don't know what it's called, but the spray thing. They put the water in, they shoot it around the room. And then there's a column here from a downed chapel that they had as well. So this is our Grimaldus and Crusader squad. As we saw on the tray, they were able to bring down this final Ripper Swarm base to 2 wounds. The other 2 are dead. Blade Guard veterans, not great. So I gave my sergeant in here a plasma pistol in the middle. The other 2 have heavy bolt pistols. As you can see, this guy's got one of them at range. Fired in the barb gaunts, did not roll well. They were able to take 1 wound out from the barb gaunt at the back, but that is it. And then over here, which was really rough, there's only certain allocations that you can give these guys now. So again, a bit of a rule change, I think. Also, some of the models in here might not be Sword Brethren. I might have put in a Marshal or something in there, which is the Black Templar captains. The Thunderhammer is legit, though. All of the power weapons are legit, as well as the Lightning Claws, but the weapons are not. So my sergeant in the front here, that is a plasma pistol. The one in the right at the back here is a Pyre pistol. That is an actual Pyre pistol. This is a heavy bolt pistol, which falls into their profile. Had to check that out just to be sure. And they fired everything in. The Pyre pistols were absolutely useless. They got like 3 attacks out of a possible 12. And this is what happened to the Hormagaunt wall here. So that is a lot of Hormagaunts that are going to still be alive. Also, their Winged Tyranid Prime is there too, which is a very potent hand-to-hand combat enemy. It has done some damage in the past, so we'll see how this goes. The only saving grace is that these guys do have very good hand-to-hand combat weapons and hand-to-hand combat skills, but they're going to have to survive that first initiated round by close to 60 Hormagaunt attacks and the attacks of the Winged Tyranid Prime. So that is it for turn 1 for the Imperium. The Crimson Fists have gone. The Black Templar, their brothers, have gone. Very, very good round by the Crimson Fists. I knew they'd do pretty good against the small skittering enemies. We're going to see how they do against the higher punch ones in the medium and heavyweight rounds coming up. But we're going to move over to the Tyranid here. I will do their movement, show you guys what we have done, and then over to the tray. So this looks like a stare down here. The Barb Gaunts are going to be firing into the Blade Guard veteran here. Possibility of a ton of attacks coming down. Pretty good strength. We'll see how they do against that. The lone Ripper Swarm here, all that's left, has gone in to hopefully chip away a few wounds from the Crusader squad. It has a very low strength attack though, so we'll see. They might just be able to squash them with their power armor boots. Over here, a lot more concerned about. We have a hell of a lot of Hormagaunts that are jumping in. That should be 15 Hormagaunts in there with the Tyranid Winged Prime versus 5 Sword Brethren. The Sword Brethren each have 3 wounds apiece. But with that many attacks coming in, we'll have to see how it goes. Over to our Crimson Fists. The Intercessors did a great shoot. They're, however, not able to fire anything at this Biovore. The Biovore is going to be taking a crack shot at the Redemptor Dreadnought, which is in range. We'll see how that goes. And then over here, a little less concerned about this, but there's still a few Hormagaunts in there that each have 3 attacks apiece. And those are the ones from the Flat Top Rock. They said there's no way in hell we can take the Redemptor Dreadnought in hand-to-hand, but let's try to get some biomass from the Stern Guard veterans and Pedro Cantor. So we're going to start over again with the Crimson Fists. We will roll the shoot first from the Biovore, so this side of the table, firing in, and then we're going to get the hand-to-hand combat, and then it's going to flip over to the Black Templar, and we're going to see how they do. So let's start off this Tyranid Wave 1, Turn 1. The Biovore firing its Spore Mine launcher into the Redemptor Dreadnought. So this is not a Spore Mine being just lobbed in to be moved around the base. This is literally a Spore Mine that's being shot out of the cannon straight into the Redemptor Dreadnought, and the Spore Mine is splashing against it. So we're going to see how much damage happens here. Red dice for the Tyranid. It is a D3 attack. Indirect fire, so you can fire it even if you don't have line of sight, which is also pretty crazy. In this case, the Biovore literally has a straight line to the Redemptor Dreadnought. So here we go. Let's see how many attacks we get. And not a great roll for the Tyranid either. So it's a D3, so that gets cut in half. It's only 1 dice. 2 becomes 1. This is usually a 4+. The Biovore has not moved, so it's a heavy bonus. So this becomes 3+ to hit. And it didn't hit. It doesn't have a reroll either. I'm just going to check its abilities here. Nope. So that is it. The Redemptor Dreadnought is completely safe. While we're still on camera here, we are going to get our Stern Guard veterans versus the Hormagaunts. So the Hormagaunts are going to be attacking first. Pedro Cantor is also attached to to this unit. I'm just going to check the abilities here for them in case there's anything that's going to help them. So Stern Guard Focus. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack that targets your Oath of Moment target, which is still the case here, you can re-roll the wound rolls. So that's going to be super important if we get to do a counterattack here. And we're going to check Pedro again because I don't use these guys every day, even though they are my favorite chapter. So let's see. Oath of Rin. That was the add 1 to attacks characteristics of weapons equipped by models in this unit. This is still in play too, so once per battle at the start of either player command phase, this model can use this ability. When it does, until the end of the turn, so the turn is still ongoing, add 1 to the attacks characteristics of weapons. So not ranged weapons, not melee weapons, weapons in general. So this is still alive and active. Again, this isn't going to take place until we do get a counterattack, but that's awesome. And then to the last, while this model is leading a unit, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, add 1 to the hit roll. If that unit is below half strength, add 1 to the wound roll as well. So we can add 1 to the hit roll here too. Yeah, add 1 to the hit roll if that unit is below its start. Okay, so if it's below its starting strength, strangely worded, but that does not play into this one. But we do get the Oath of Rin that's still active, so that is going to be add 1 to the attacks characteristics of weapons. So we have to survive this first though, but that's a pretty good start. And the Stern Guard fall into the unit with Pedro, so they're going to get that. We have 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 24 attacks. Let me just see here. 3 attacks per. So we have 3, 12, yep, 24. So oh yeah, that means a full 20 is 60 attacks. Was I saying 20 at the start? That is not correct at all. That's 20 Hormagaunts with 3 wounds apiece being 60 attacks. That's why I was kind of weird here, because there's only 8 left. So yeah, that makes sense. Again, I always play really well for both sides, so I want to make sure that we are following the rules. It is 24 attacks here for the Hormagaunts. I only have 20 red dice, so I'm going to have to grab 4 of my black dice. Here we go, hitting on a 4+. So again, to get to the counterattack, it might be a bit tricky. A lot of these aren't 4s though, so that's good. Looks like I'm not rolling well for either side today. So I will take that. This is the nice, like, if you do have 20 in a unit, you've got a hell of a lot better chance of rolling 4s, but just look at how many fell off from that. So we had 24 attacks come in, only 5 have actually hit. So these things are like hyperactive little creatures. They're just going like crazy with their claws. Strength 3 against toughness 4, going to need 5s to wound. And once again, even from those 24 initial attacks, I can't reroll these. 1 has gone through. So this one is going to be a 3+ save. No, there is -1 AP, so it's going to be a 4+ save for the Stern Guards. And with that, there has been a wound administered. So from 24 attacks, only 1 wound. Again, this first wave for the Tyranid, though, was like a test round. They want to make sure that they're weakening their enemy so the future waves can take them out. So 1 wound is still a wound, and that might come into play later in the game. So we're now going to move back to our Stern Guard. So all of that stuff that I mentioned, Oath of Rin, all of that stuff is going to come into play now. We'll go through first. We have close combat weapons for most of my Stern Guard, and then there is 1 Power Fist. So the close combat weapons are 4 attacks per. There are 4 of them with that, so we're doing 16. I'm just getting them here. 3. So 4. 1, 2, 3. There we go. 16. Close combat weapons, because they don't have chain swords, they don't have power weapons other than that Power Fist. So this is knives, this is their hands, this is their feet, whatever they can use. As I've mentioned before, Space Marines, even unarmored, can probably rip a Hormagaunt or Termagant in half. So, you know, it's pretty legit. So this is hitting on a 3+. And they are Oath of Moment. So I'm going to reroll all of these that fell off. And we have the Oath of Rin. Fuck, I'm having trouble tracking today in regards to... So once per battle, add 1 to the attacks characteristics of weapons. So actually, that is 5 attacks per. I'm very glad I checked. So that's an additional 4 dice in this case because it is add 1. So I'm just going to reroll these first. I got to make sure that we're managing this too because it's a hell of a lot of reroll. Like the rules of 40K have gotten insane. Like we reroll this. What's this one? Add this to this. Like holy Dinah. Anyways, here we go. So these are my rerolls. Looking for a 3+ for the close combat weapon. And thanks for the patience, guys. I'm working through this. Again, Crimson Fists, my favorite chapter. I don't usually use them. And there's a lot of rules that have been added, as you can see. And this is the initial +1 attacks from Oath of Rin. So this is going to end at the end of this turn, too, because we have it for 1 turn against our Oath of Moment target. So we're looking for 3+. I can reroll these, though, the Oath of Moment. 1 did fall off. This now is going to be our wound roll. We have a lot of attacks coming through. I'm hoping I can just wipe out these Hormagaunts and get our kill tally up like crazy. So they've been able to do it with their firepower. It looks like they're going to be able to do it hopefully with their close combat weapons as well. So this is strength 4 against toughness 3. So this is going to be 3s to wound, and I can add 1 to the hit roll here. So do we have any 2s in here? Yes, we do. This becomes a 3. There we go. And any 1s and 2s that are left are coming out. Pretty damn good roll. So I'm going to use these as the save dice. The close combat weapons do have a 0 AP, but the Hormagaunt save is only 5+. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 that have saved. Not the worst for them. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 that have gone through. There's only 8 models here around the Crimson Fists, so they have been able to repel these Hormagaunts and kill them with their counterattack. The Power Fist of the Sergeant was not needed, and Pedro Cantor's Power Fist was also not needed. So we are going to move over here to the Black Templar in just a sec. I will sum up the side of the Crimson Fists. One of the best rounds I think I've seen from any chapter so far, so very, very cool. So that was a long one in the tray, but definitely some very cool rolls, and the Crimson Fists are rolling here. When the medium-sized enemies come in, though, in the second wave, I'm going to question how potent they're going to be, but that was an amazing start. So the Sternguard veterans did take 1 wound from the 24 Hormagaunt attacks. Only 1 made it through for an actual wound. They then counterattacked, and they were able to kill the Hormagaunts. The Oath of Rin is done, though, because that is once per battle, so I'm not going to be getting that bonus in the future. But against the skittering enemies, I think it was a very good call, because as the toughness goes up from like our Von Ryan's Leapers, if we're facing the Tyrant Guard, the Swarm Lord, stuff like that, I'm glad they're done with. The Redemptor Dreadnought, fantastic, was able to just blow the shit out of a bunch of Hormagaunt models. Intercessors as well. The only thing that's left on the side of the table for the Tyranid is the Biovore, and it was not able to do any damage to the Redemptor. So they have killed every single Hormagaunt model on this side, which is absolutely phenomenal. We're now moving over here, though. It is going to be the shoot for the Tyranid, so the Barbgaunts are going to be firing in at the Blade Guard veterans over here. The Ripper Swarm is in hand-to-hand. Don't think I'll get that one on camera. That's really kind of... I think they're just going to stomp them out, but we'll see. This one here is definitely going to be on camera, and I'm very worried for our sword brethren, but we'll see. We saw a whole bunch of Hormagaunt attacks fall off during the last turn there with the Sternguard veterans, so I'm hoping that that might happen again. However, there is the Winged Tyranid Prime this time in here, and it's going to be able to do some bigger damage than its smaller Hormagaunt brothers. So let's get to the tray, and we'll get the first turn all finished up. Alrighty, so this is the range attack from the other side of the table here, the Barbgaunts versus the Blade Guard veterans. I was just looking at the Blade Guard veteran ability, and there is something called Shields of the Chapter. So each time an invulnerable saving throw is made for a model in this unit, reroll a saving roll of 1. That's not going to be needed because there's no AP here from the Barbgaunts, but very good to know for the future. So these Barbgaunts, they have the heavy bonus, and it's a D6 attack per. The Blade Guard veterans were only able to wound one in that first turn, so there's still 5 of them, which is going to be the possibility of 30 shots coming down here. So let's see how they do. It's a D6. This is telling us how many shots they're going to get in total. So 2, that's a good start for a Black Templar. 1, even better. 2, 6, and 6. So if these had all been 6, it would have been insane. That's 12 attacks, 14, 15, 16. So I'm just going to get the dice together here. This pile, I always know how many I have because I have 20. I think there's 25 in the other. So this is hitting on what is usually a 4+ is now a 3+ because of the heavy bonus. The Barbagons did not move, so looking for 3s here. Just going to check and see if they have any reroll ability. So nope. So we are looking for 3s in here. Can't reroll anything. Not twin linked, nothing like that. So this is straight up rolls. From kind of a small light artillery unit, pretty much for the Barbagons. It's kind of like heavy weapons for Imperial Guard, but not really. They're their own kind of thing. It is strength 5 though versus toughness 4. So this is where it's a plus. The Blade Guard veterans have that 4, so this is gonna be 3s to wound for the Barbagons. A couple more fell off. Can't reroll those. So we've got all of these that are through. I'm going to use these dice as the save. It's 0 to AP. This is a 3+ save. Ooh, that's not good. Oh my gosh. So that is... and there's no like invulnerable save here. This is the regular save, so I can't reroll 1s as per the rules. Luckily it's 1 damage per, but that is 1, 2, 3. That is 1 of our Blade Guard veterans dead, actually, from that Barbagant bombardment. So they have done their job very well. We have lost our first model for the Imperium here, and it is a Black Templar sword or Blade Guard veteran. So I am going to do the Ripper Swarm now. That's going to be off camera. I don't think that's going to be too interesting or cool a roll. And then I will come back, and we're definitely going to get the Sword Brethren versus the Hormigaunt and Winged Tyranid Prime on camera. All right, so just to break up the tray a little bit, we do have that Barbagant fire that happened. They went in. They were actually able to kill one of the Blade Guard veteran. These guys are needed for the medium 2nd wave and 3rd wave heavy enemies, and they've already lost a guy, so that's not good. Over here too, Ripper Swarms have a toughness of 2, so they need a ton of 6s to do anything. I actually rolled super well, and they were able to wound one of the Neophytes. So the Neophyte at the back there has 2 wounds. Only a 4+ save, was not able to save. 0 AP from the Ripper Swarm, but they were able to hurt them. And then the Sword Brethren here at the front, which is like the sergeant for the squad with that power axe, came down, did 6 damage against the 2 remaining wounds, and that was the end of the Ripper Swarm base. Over here, we will get back to the tray to see how this is going to go. That is almost a whole unit of Hormagaunts. There are 15 there with 3 attacks per, and the Winged Tyranid Prime. So the Sword Brethren, really, really good in hand-to-hand combat, but they have to be able to survive this to be able to actually fight back and counterattack. So let's get over the tray, and we will get that going right now. So when you get the dice in your hands for these Hormagaunts, and there's almost 20 of them in a unit, this is 45 attacks. You're gonna have to do this in 2 rolls. So I'm hoping a bunch fall off here, but this is the first 25 attacks that are coming in, hitting on a 4+. So it looks like a lot did fall off, but there's still 20 attacks coming in from the Hormagaunts alone after this. And then there's also the Winged Tyranid Prime. So I'm really hoping these Sword Brethren can withstand all of these Hormagaunt Talons. So these are all through. They have not wounded yet though. That is a strength 3 versus a toughness of 4. So this is going to be 5s to wound. More fell off. So we have 3 that have actually gone through. They do have that -1 to AP though. I should have actually used red dice. Uh-oh. We'll see how it goes. -1 to AP, I'm going to use this now to save, so it is going to be a 4+. And just like that, they can't, let me see if they have a feel no pain. They don't. And that Templar vow that we put in is the accept any challenge. So each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, so that's not the case here. Melee attacks are administered to them. So that is 1 dead Sword Brethren. From 25 attacks, so you might say, hey, that's not too bad. In reality, it's not great because there's only 4 of them left now, and they still have to survive another onslaught of attacks from the Hormagaunts and the Winged Tyranid Prime. So here's the next 20 attacks from the Hormagaunts. Again, same deal, hitting on a 4+. So that was a better roll. I can see it right away. A lot of 4s. Okay. So maybe I should have stayed with black dice. I don't know. See what I mean? The superstition. Strength 3, toughness 4, 5s to wound. Yep, and better there too. So we've got a couple of 5s, some 6s. Can't reroll these. These have all fallen off. That -1 to AP though is what really does it. So I'm going to grab 5 black dice just to see if that's going to help our Black Templar. So this is going to be 4 pluses to save. And again, wow. So there have been 2 that have been saved. Luckily, this is only 1 damage per, but 3 more wounds have gone through from 20 attacks. This isn't a big squad, though. They've lost another of the Black Templar at the back. So that is 2 of the Black Templar Sword Brethren dead from a Hormigaunt attack. And we still have the Winged Tyranid Prime, who is coming up next. I'm not sure as well if it's precision. It's not, so he can't like aim this towards... it doesn't matter. There's no character leader model with them. So the Winged Tyranid Prime has 6 attacks this time. So that is still quite good. And they're coming in at strength 6, hitting on a 2+. I'm just going to check its abilities to see if it's got any type of rerolls. Alpha Warrior, while this unit is leading a unit, weapons equipped by models in that unit have the sustained death blow. If this model is destroyed, yeah, so it wasn't destroyed, so that doesn't come into play here. It has been able to attack, and it has attacked with all 6 of its attacks. Strength 6, toughness 4, 3s to wound. That's a little better. These fell off, so half of the attacks have fallen off. -1 to AP. Again, 4+ save. And 2 wounds have also come down again. So we had a 6. 2 wounds have been administered. So that means one of the other Sword Brethren has gone from 3 wounds down to 1 wound. Yeah, I guess I'll keep that. So we still have the Thunder Hammer, the Power Weapon, so the Mastercrafted Power Sword, and the Twin Lightning Claws. So now we can fight back, finally. I'm just going to see if any of these are precision. They're not, so I can't put these towards the Winged Tyranid Prime right away. So these are coming in against the Hormigaunts. So we will start up with the Mastercrafted Power Weapon of the Sword Brethren champion here in the middle, hitting on a 2+. All through. Strength 5, toughness 3, 3s to wound. Oof, wow. And do I have an ability to... No, and I can't reroll anything either, so all of those fell off. I just needed a 3. That's it. Jeez Louise. Okay, so we're moving over to the Twin Lightning Claws. These are 5 attacks, hitting on a 2+. 1 fell off. Can't reroll it because I don't have Oath of Moment. Not with Black Templar models. So these are through. It is a Strength 5, Toughness 3. This is going to be 3s to wound. But I can re-roll this because it's twin linked. And I'm going to need it. So, geez, they're not rolling well. So I need 2s here. Sorry, 3s because it's the wound roll. And both fell off. That's not good. So 2 are through, not the worst. It is a -2 to AP, so that is 1 damage per. It's automatic because the Hormigaunts will go up to a 7+ save, which is not possible. So that is 2 dead Hormigaunts. I will take them from the line and put them over with the rest of the dead models so I can show you guys the tally of the kills. And now we have the Thunder Hammer to finish off this turn, and that is it for wave 1. So this is 3 attacks hitting on a 3+. Yeah, can't get that one either. So strength 8, toughness 3, 2s to wound. Both of those are through, thank God. It's a -2 to AP, so again, that is unsavable. This time it is 2 damage per, so that is 4 damage that has gone through, which means we have 4 dead Hormigaunts on top of the others that were just killed. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna add these guys over to the kill tally table. And I think while we're live, I'm just going to pull the camera off, sum up that turn. Our Canadian women are playing hockey today too against Switzerland, so I'm going to be going up to watch that game with my wife. And I just bought Subodhan Khan, who is the new White Scar model, so I'm going to be putting him together while I'm watching, which will be pretty sick. So here is the sum up for the wave 1. I'm not going to go back over the Crimson Fists. You guys already saw that. There's literally just the Biovore left over there, so they did fantastic. On this side, they took some casualties. So we lost 2 of the Sword Brethren. One is down to 1 wound. There's still a lot of Hormagaunts that were there. The Winged Tyranid Prime as well was not killed. The Grimaldus and Crusader squad that he's leading were able to kill those Ripper Swarms. And then over here too, the Barbgaunts took 1 wound at the start, and they were able to kill a Blade Guard veteran. So the Black Templar are pretty busted up. I'll show you guys the kill tally here for that first wave. So we have 20, 40, 50 Hormagaunts, plus another 10, so that's 61-ish Ripper Swarms. But the Black Templar have lost 2 of their Sword Brethren, and they've lost a Blade Guard veteran. So that is not good, because the next wave that's coming in, as we've seen in the past, is pretty chonky. So they've got the Tyrant Guard, Stormlord, Von Rein's Leapers, the Pyrovore, and then we have Raveners and Von Rein's Leapers. So for hand-to-hand combat, I'm hoping those Black Templar can do a little bit better. Their ranged weapons, not great. So the Tyranid have had some models survive this first round. If they were facing the Crimson Fists, they did not. But this may flip over, and the Black Templar might do better in the second and third wave compared to the Crimson Fists, who do not have as great a hand-to-hand combat punch. But I will get the Tyranid set up here in just a sec after I set our Imperium models up, and I'll make sure that the best strategy has been allocated to the models for the Tyranid and the Hivemind. We'll get into wave 2 here in just a sec. Wave 2 has been set up. My Imperium models, of course, went out first, and then the Tyranid were laid out after that. I will sum up the Black Templar first. We have the Black Templar squad with Chaplain Grimaldus behind this wall here, and they are facing off against 6 Von Rein's Leapers. Tons of attacks each, so that's going to be very interesting. There's still some pretty good hand-to-hand power in this squad, especially with Chaplain Grimaldus, but not as much as the Sword Brethren or the Blade Guard veterans. Our busted up Blade Guard veterans are facing off against the Pyrovore. It's going to be in range to douse them with flame, and they're going to have to fire into it to try to weaken it, or maybe kill it. We'll see. It's got 5 wounds though. Over here are Sword Brethren, who have also been very beat up. Lost 2 of their squad last turn. One's down to 1 wound, or facing off against another 3 Von Rein's Leapers. The Sword Brethren are very potent in hand-to-hand combat, but there is too far a gap there to cover that space in 1 turn, so they have been forced to do their range attack, and the Von Rein's Leapers, mattering how damaged they are, will be able to get in there and do some attacks. If there's still 3 of them left, it's going to be pretty crazy, and I have not been rolling great for the Black Templar. As much strategy as you put down, there's always the rolls, and that can affect the game. Over on the other side here, we have our Redemptor Dreadnought facing off against the Tyrant Guard and the Swarmlord. This is a very good model, but against that many attacks, it's going to be something. He may be able to get in there for the hand-to-hand combat. I'll have to check the stats out when we get over to them to start that. See if he can get the initiative. The big thing is, if they counterattack and they do a whole bunch of attacks on him, it's going to flip back over to them to then be able to initiate the hand-to-hand combat. So I might have to keep them at range and just put every single weapon system that the Redemptor Dreadnought has on this squad. So we'll see how I do that. Up in the Prometheum Tower on this side this time, we have the 5 Intercessors who are going to be putting down some support fire for their 2 other squads. Likely their chapter master, Pedro Cantor, who is down here with the Stern Guard veterans. They are still all healthy. Pedro's good to go, but they are facing off against 5 Raveners. If the Raveners get in and get the initiative for hand-to-hand combat and are fully healthy, they were able to shred an Ultramarine Intercessor squad with ease during the first battle. So we will see how the Stern Guard veterans do. They do have a little bit better hand-to-hand combat. They've got the Power Fist there. Pedro also is back there with a Power Fist, so we'll see how that goes. but we're going to get into this right now. Start over with the, well, I think we're going to start with the Crimson Fists, and then we'll move it over to the Black Templar and see how this second wave goes against the medium-sized Tyranid fighters. Let's see how the Imperium does in getting their kill count up, and how many are going to survive the second round to take on the final third wave, which are all the heavyweight models. Thought about it for a little bit, looked at all the profiles here for the ranged weapons and for the hand-to-hand combat. It makes the most sense for my Redemptor Dreadnought here for the Crimson Fists to go into combat first to get that initiative. Not a crazy ton of attacks, but they're very strong. They're strength 12. We'll cover that a little bit more when we get over to the tray. I don't think he's going to be able to kill everything here in one go. Hoping to maybe kill one or two if we can. And then with that counterattack, I'm hoping that the toughness of the Redemptor Dreadnought and the 12 wounds that it has will be able to help it out. I'm going to start off though with the shoots, and I think I'll probably do all of those off camera in the tray. And it's going to all be situated against the Raveners. So we have the Stern Guard veterans and Pedro Cantor firing here into the Raveners, and I'll have to check range. I'm pretty sure it looks good, but the intercessors who are up in the Prometheum Tower are also going to be firing down into the Raveners, because that is really the only enemies over on this side. So here we go. There's also like no rule against the Crimson Fist helping out the Black Templar, but they need to help their own first, and their chapter master might be in trouble there if those Raveners can get into hand-to-hand combat. So they're going to try to thin those numbers out or maybe finish them off. Crimson Fist's shoot is done for turn 2. We had the intercessors on the Prometheum Tower fire 20 shots down into the Raveners, plus another almost 20, I'd say, as well from the Stern Guard veterans and Pedro Cantor, because the Pyre Cannon got a fantastic shot off, and they were able to reduce the Raveners to 2 models, and one actually only has 1 wound remaining. So a very good round. The Raveners popped out of the ground and just ran into a wall of bolter fire and Pyre Cannon flame, and they did really good. So they are still going to be able to probably get into hand-to-hand combat. We'll see how that goes, but maybe during the counterattack from the Stern Guard veterans and Pedro Cantor, they can kill both models outright and finish with a very good kill tally for this turn. We're now going over here to the Redemptor Dreadnought that is in hand-to-hand combat with the Swarm Lord and its bodyguard Tyrant Guards. This is going to be a good scrap. I'm really hoping I can get some good rolls here too, because the Redemptor Dreadnought in hand-to-hand with that Power Fist is quite good, that Crimson Power Fist. So we'll see how it is. We're going to get this one on the tray. Let's get over there. Here we are. Time to finish up this turn 2, wave 2 for the Crimson Fists. This is the Redemptor Dreadnought in hand-to-hand combat first with the Tyrant Guard, because any wounds that are administered to them will be done first, and then if there's any spillage, it'll go over to the Swarm Lord. The reason I did this is because the ranged weapons of the Redemptor Dreadnought are just not high enough for the toughness of the Tyrant Guard, and definitely not for the Swarm Lord. So the Rocket Pod is coming in at 8, the Onslaught Gatling Cannon strength 5, the Twin Storm Bolters strength 4. They're just not high enough to be able, and then strength 6 from the Heavy Onslaught Gatling Cannon. So I'd have to roll a lot of 5s to be able to actually get any wounds down, whereas the hand-to-hand combat of the Redemptor Fist is strength 12. So it's higher than all of these, and it's going to allow me some easier rolls, so some 3s, which is going to be huge. So we're going to roll here for the Redemptor Dreadnought. He also has something called Duty Eternal. So each time an attack is allocated to this model, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack. That's going to be huge. In case the Tyrant Guard and Swarm Lord will be fighting back, I can reduce the damage characteristic of one of the attacks by 1. So that's pretty damn good. Or actually, each time an attack is allocated to this model, each time an attack, subtract 1. So every time something comes back to fight, it's going to be -1 from the damage of that attack. So very, very good. And it has a deadly demise. So if it does get killed, it might explode and do some damage back. But anyways, let's grab our 5 dice. This is the Redemptor Fist, hitting on a 3+. The Redemptor Dreadnought does have Oath of Moment, but the Raveners were the target of my Crimson Fists for Oath of Moment, so he's not going to be able to get any rerolls here, or any additions to hit rolls, so or to wound rolls. So here we go, hitting on 3+. And 1 has fallen off. That sucks. I was really hoping I get all 5 through. It is strength 12 versus the toughness 8 of the Tyrant cards, so this is going to be 3s to wound. That's a 5. Another one fell off. So the initial 5-3 are through. It is a -2 to AP. The Tyrant Guard do not have invulnerable saves. This has them at a 5+. And I'm just going to see if the Tyrant Guard have any abilities here. So while a character model is leading this unit, that character model has the Feel No Pain 5+. So that's not for the Tyrant Guard. That is for the Swarm Lord that's leading them. They were able to save 1 here, but these 2 have gone through, and the Redemptor Fist does 3 damage per attack. So that is 6 damage. The Tyrant Guard have 4 wounds per, so that has killed one of them, which is exactly what I was hoping for. So 1 is dead, and 1 is down to 2 wounds. I'm really hoping the Redemptor doesn't go down here, but if his troops are facing off against the Tyranid there in the final turn, this might come in to help them. So any damage I can do is good. So that's it. It's going back to the Tyrant Guard now. We're going to get this while we're on camera. They're going to be getting their counterattack. They have the actually also pretty powerful Crushing Claws and Rending Claws. So we're going to roll those right away, and those are twin linked as well. So it's going to be 2 for the first model here, and that's hitting on a 4+. So 1 went through, 1 did not. Going to roll another 2. And 2 of the 4 have gone through from them. They don't have any extra attacks either, so this is it for them. This is the loadout I gave them. So we have 2 attacks through. It is Strength 8 versus Toughness 10. It's going to be 5s to wound. Ooh, a double 6 is very good roll for the Tyrant Guard. The Crushing Claws and Rending Claws are -2 to AP, and the Redemptor Dreadnought actually does not have an invulnerable. So it goes from a 2+ save to a 4+ save. And a very good roll back from the Redemptor Dreadnought. So if either of those had not gone through, it would have been 2 damage per, but I could have subtracted 1 from each of those attacks. So right now the Redemptor Dreadnought is good to go. He is, however, just about to face the lightning fast swords of the Swarm Lord. And that is the Bone Sabers. So this is 8 attacks. We've seen this before. They're also twin linked, so that means you can reroll the wound roll. Fingers crossed here for our Redemptor. And their strength 9. So the Redemptor has just a bit higher toughness, so that's going to help big time. These are also hitting on a 2+. This thing is a melee hand-to-hand combat beast. So 2's here to hit. All of those are through. This guy's hanging. It would be a 3 or a 2 if it flipped the other way. So we're counting all these. It is that strength 9 of the Bone Sabers versus toughness 10. So I still need 5s to wound. And just like that, a terrible roll comes off. That is amazing for the Redemptor Dreadnought. So 1 is through. It is a -2 to AP. That is going to be a 4+ again save from the Redemptor Dreadnought. And another 6 has been rolled. So this guy's, well, he can't really be an ancient because the Primaris Marines haven't been around too long, but maybe a Primaris Marine that came across in bad luck, got entombed in the sarcophagus of the Primaris Redemptor Dreadnought, and has just survived a counterattack from 2 Tyrant Guard and the Swarm Lord. And in the past, we've seen the Swarm Lord absolutely cut units in half. He cut an entire section of Death Company pretty much in half. So that is good. That's it for the Crimson Fist. So we're going to flip over here to the Black Templar. I'm going to do their move if it's required. And if not, I will sum up what's going on and what's going on with their shoots. So no movements were done here by the Black Templar. It kind of sucks because they're really good for hand-to-hand combat. Their main movement is landing about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch away from the Von Rhein's Leapers. So they're going to be firing those. Still a possibility of doing some damage here. Those bolt rifles are strength 4 though, if that's what they're firing with against toughness 5. So it might be harder to hit. These guys, same story. The 6 inches is hitting like just in front of the Pyrovore here, so they're going to have to shoot at it as well. There's a plasma pistol from the Blade Guard Veteran Sergeant, and then the other Blade Guard Veteran has a heavy bolt pistol, so don't know if that's going to be able to really do much damage to the Pyrovore, but we'll see. And then this one really hurts. So once again, the Hive Mind is really learning these Space Marines, how they move. The Sword Brethren are about 1 inch, 1.5 inches actually away from the front of the Von Rhein's Leaper stand, so they cannot lock into hand-to-hand combat, which is where they are best. So they are going to be firing here, trying to soften up the Von Rhein's Leapers, because those Von Rhein's Leapers are definitely in range. They're going to be jumping in, and then hopefully we can survive that counterattack. But first things first, we'll get over the tray, maybe get 1 or 2 shoots in. Maybe start with these guys, and then I'll do the Black Templar squad off camera and the Blade Guard veterans, and we will see how this goes. Hopefully they can soften up some enemies so they're not facing Von Rein's Leapers at full strength, which can be pretty damn devastating as well. I gotta say, I think I might be now a Tyranid expert because I've been using them so much as like my enemy force for all of the Last Stand series. For most of my crusades, they've been involved in there against the Cadian and against the Sisters of Battle. And now I'm doing the Surrounded series, so I might be a Tyranid player. I don't know. I'm thinking about it now. Like, my favorite chapter, yes, Crimson Fists. I love my Imperial Guard as my favorite army, but I think the most time that I've actually played games behind are the Tyranids. So I am kind of the hive mind now. I know how they work really well, and they're a really good army and a cheap army. So maybe if I ever do play in a tournament or something, or someone wants to come over and take me on, I might use Tyranid. We'll see what happens. So this is going to be the only roll in the tray here. It's going to be the Sword Brethren versus those 3 Von Rein's Leapers. This is not looking good, I don't think, for the Black Templar. We will see how they do, but if these Von Rein's Leapers are not softened up, there's going to be 18 attacks per unit of Von Rein's Leapers coming in at very good strength. They've got a pretty good toughness too. They're a really good medium-sized enemy. 3 wounds as well, so we'll see how it goes. They don't have any range at all, but they are very good. And they actually have the fights first. What? So maybe I don't know my Tyranid as well as I was thinking. So literally every time I've been going into hand-to-hand combat, if I've had someone jump in first, and again, I can't go back and change anything, but the Von Rein's Leapers are supposed to fight first. I don't know why I've never seen that. Unless it's brand new, I'm not sure. Maybe with the 10th edition kind of redux there that happened, but anyways. So let's get into this. This doesn't matter for this one because it is going to be the shoots. So we have a plasma pistol and 2 heavy bolt pistols. That's all that remains for these Sword Brethren, and they have these sick, like, power sword, they have a thunder hammer, and they have lightning claws, but I don't know if they're going to be able to use them. And now, especially seeing the Von Rein's Leapers, even if the Black Templar had jumped into combat first, the Von Rein's Leapers actually get to fight first, because that's the rule. So, holy nana. Anyways, here we go. This is the plasma pistol hitting on a 3+. So that is a 6, strength 7, toughness 5, 3s to wound. That's good. Very good start. It is a -2 to AP as well. That brings the Von Rein's Leaper up to a 6+ invulnerable. Didn't save it, so that is 1 wound allocated to a Von Rein's Leaper. This is exactly what we needed here to start this off. There we go. I can't believe I've never seen that before. So like, maybe I just don't open their abilities much, because I've always been kind of floored by their like 6 attacks per model at strength 5 and -1 AP, which are like perfect Terminator killers. But yeah, I've never opened up their abilities, maybe because they have pouncing leap as well. That's not really, yeah, if you can target this unit with the heroic intervention stratagem, I don't use that really. So yeah, I don't think I've ever opened it. Maybe that's why on the app, or it's new. Anyways, going over to the next ones here, we do have the heavy bolt pistols. So I'm going to roll them both at once. It's hitting on a 3+. Both of them have not fired. I'm just going to go through here because I know they don't have the Oath of Moment, but they have the Templar Vows. And the one that I had locked in is accept any challenge, no matter the odds. Each time a model in this unit makes a melee attack, if the strength characteristic of that attack is less than. So this is melee, or 4 melee, but this was a range attack, so nothing's happened there. So they were able to wound a Von Rein's Leaper. Definitely not what I was hoping for. Hoping for more shots. Maybe if they had the 2 other guys with the Pirate Pistols left, it might have been a different story. But that is it, and these Black Templar are going to get leapt on. I'm going to continue the move here for the other Black Templar on the table. So we have the Blade Guard veterans and the Crusader squad being led by Chaplain Grimaldus and his retinue. I will do all of that off camera, come back and show you guys what happens. Fingers crossed before I start rolling that they can soften up some of these Von Rein's Leapers. Because again, if they're facing a full 6 models on the other side of the table, it's not going to go well. But yeah, good luck. Here we go. So that is the end of turn 2 for the Imperium. It's moving over to the Tyranid here in just a sec. We saw the Sword Brethren fire into the Von Rein's Leapers. They were able to wound 1, which was okay, but there's still 3 models there that have their full attacks. Over here, the Blade Guard veterans, I don't know if they're a pretty good unit. If you're fighting enemies that have distance though, I wouldn't take them. they don't have very good weapons. Like I was able to get an okay roll with the plasma pistol previously. This time it didn't fire. There's no rerolls here because they don't have Oath of Moment. And then the heavy bolt pistol was just not a high enough penetration. The Pyrovore, nothing happened to it. Now it's going to be able to gout them in flame. So that might be the end of our Blade Guard veteran. Much better success over here. The Crusade squad's actually made up of some pretty good models there, especially with the loadout of the Pyre blaster. You've got the heavy bolt rifles, then you have the neophyte firearms, so tons of rounds coming down. And they were actually able to kill 2 of the Von Rein's Leapers and wound another. It's down to 2 wounds. And that's without Chaplain Grimaldus, because he wasn't able to roll high enough to use his plasma pistol. And Grimaldus also, if you guys are playing Black Templar, is great for buffing out melee. So I should have probably attached him to the Sword Brethren from the start, or to the Blade Guard veterans. But you know, learn as you play, and great for buffing out those kinds of models, but not great for this squad. Like, he's going to be able to help the Sword Brethren at the front there with the power axe when these Von Rein's Leapers jump in, and also for the counterattacks going on there. But if I had his punch in there from the start, maxing out the Sword Brethren, might be okay. The other thing, again, though, the Sword Brethren do only have that 6-inch move, so the Von Rein's Leapers have stayed at bay from that, and they're going to be able to jump in because they have a further movement. So I'm going to move the Tyranid here really quick. I think you guys know what's going to happen. I'll do it for the whole table, come back and show you guys what's going on both sides. And then from there, we'll start rolling in the tray, try to get as many hand-to-hand combats as we can in there. So no change here. The Tyrant Guards have now gone in, and the Swarm Lord for the initiative this time. So that means that our Redemptor is going to be on its back foot during this one. They're going to be able to put all the blows in first. We'll see how that goes. The Intercessors up in the Prometheum Tower are only going to be able to look down right now. They were able to do some great damage there to those Raveners for the beginning of this turn to help out Pedro Cantor and the Stern Guard veterans, but they can only watch now as their Chapter Master is locked into hand-to-hand combat with 2 Raveners. Not as worried about this one. The Stern Guard veterans are, I think, going to be okay, and the Raveners are pretty beat up. We have one there with 3 wounds, one with 1 wound, but these things are going to be able to attack with the initiative because they're the ones that went into hand-to-hand combat first. And then over here, we're going to do it live. You guys already knew what was going on. It's going to be the Von Rein's Leapers. Ow! That's the noise they make. I've just made it up. I don't care. Going into hand-to-hand, so wow, like that, they went in. Pyre Blaster's going to be firing down here. That'll be a shoot that I will have to get in the tray first. And then over here we have, I'm hoping these guys can do okay, but the Von Rein's Leapers jumping into hand-to-hand combat versus our Sword Brethren. We will see how that goes. Over to the tray, let's get this stuff going. I think we're going to start with the Crimson Fists as we have. So Tyranid going on over there first, and then we'll move back over to the Black Templar and close out turn 2. Before we get over to the Redemptor and the Tyrant Guard and Swarm Lord, I just wanted to sum this one up. So we had the 2 remaining Raveners. I'm glad it was only 2 because they were able to kill 2 Stern Guard veterans outright, and another is wounded, down to 1 wound. The Stern Guard veterans with their close combat weapons were not able to do much, but the Power Fist of the Sergeant was able to finish them both off, so that was fantastic. And actually Pedro Cantor wasn't needed. He was trying to buff out the guys the best he could, but there were still 2 that were lost, but there are no Raveners remaining. So this is a 3-man Stern Guard veteran squad, and Pedro to finish off the 3rd wave when that comes about. And now we're going to move over to the other side of the table and do the Redemptor and the Tyrant Guard and Swarm Lord in the tray right now. So this is it, the final turn for the Tyranid on this side of the table against the Crimson Fists, and then it'll flip back over to the Tyranid fighting the Black Templar. The Tyrant Guard are going to start this one off. They do have the initiative this time, so it is going to be the Crushing Claws and Rending Claws of the 2 Tyrant Guard. So this is hitting on a 4+. 1 is through. Those 2 are through. I'm able to reroll the wound roll that's coming up because they're twin linked. So this is going to be strength 8 versus toughness 10, 5s to wound. I have to reroll everything. And picked up 1, so better than nothing. It is -2 to AP. That has our Redemptor up to a 4+ save. And he did not save it. So that is 2 damage per. And our Redemptor goes from 12 wounds down to 10. Could have been worse, but that's still not great because I need this thing to fight those last Tyranid in the final wave. There is the Swarm Lord next, which could also be taking more wounds off as it has a higher strength attack than its Tyrant Guard. This thing is also going to get a Feel No Pain if the Redemptor Dreadnought does fight back here and does some pretty crazy damage. So we are moving over to the Bone Sabers of the Swarm Lord. We're going to be doing 8 attacks here. Just going to grab my dice. There it is. Hitting on a 2+. All those are through. These are twin linked, so I can reroll the wound roll. They are strength 9 versus toughness 10, so still need 5s here. That's a 4, but I'm going to have to reroll it anyway. So we have a 5 and a 6. The twin link allows us to reroll. It's looking for 5 still. And picked up 2 more attacks, which is actually pretty damn good for the Swarm Lord. So there's 4 through total. It is a -2 to AP. That's going to be a 4+ save for our Redemptor Dreadnought. 2 were saved, so a 4 and a 6. 2, however, went through, and these are 3 damage per. So that is 3, 6. The Redemptor goes from 10 wounds down to 4 wounds. Just going to move his wound token here. So these are actually, I'll show you guys really quick too. I don't know if I've ever showed these. You've probably seen them, but it's another thing I think I got off of Etsy or something, but it's just a spinning disc. It's 16 wounds in total, or 15. Great way to track though for tanks and for bigger creatures. So this is for a Redemptor. He's down to 4 wounds. He is going to be able to fight back. I just have to see if there is any kind of penalty to being at those kind of wounds. So yeah, damaged, 1 to 4 wounds remaining. While this model has 1 to 4 wounds remaining, each time this model makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So that's going to be coming into play here. It's not his Oath of Moment either, because the Oath of Moment was the Raveners that Pedro Cantor and his guys were fighting on the other side of the board there. So it is the Redemptor Fist though. I am able to fight back here. He still has 4 wounds. He's still alive. Hitting on a 3+. Actually a 4+, because we have to do the -1 to the hit roll. Come on. Oh, it's spinning. So, no, we had 3 that fell off. There's a 4 and a 6. Just going to check the abilities again really quick. Yeah, so... Oh yeah, so each time an attack is allocated to this model, subtract 1 from the damage characteristic of that attack. So he actually has 6 wounds, because that would have been 2 that went through with the Bone Sabers. There we go. I'm glad I checked that again. I'd say we're still in there, so it's still like you have your hand on the chess piece before you finish your move. So the Redemptor has 6. There was the -1, so there was a couple of 3s in there, so he's getting those back. And this is going to be allocated to the Tyrant Guard because they are protecting their Swarm Lord. And 4 attacks are through. It is a -2 to AP, so this is going to be a 5+ save for the Tyrant Guard. And he actually did pretty good. So this is, you know, it's not going to really matter for the 3rd wave because the Redemptor's still pretty badly wounded, almost down to half of its wounds from its start. But to be able to get the kill tally up is what's important here. So what happened there was, I didn't check the abilities. The Redemptor has that ability of Duty Eternal, where you subtract 1 from the damage characteristic. So that was off of those 2 attacks that made it through from the Swarm Lord. And I added 2 wounds back on, caught it just in time. And here there has been... from the Redemptor Fist, 3, 6, that was a 2, 9 damage allocated to the Hive Tyrants, or the Tyrant Guard, sorry. So they have been killed. They had 4, 6. Actually, some of those spill over to the Tyrant Swarm Lord as well. So he's lost some wounds too. I'm just having that reflect on the disc. But that does close out this turn for the Crimson Fist. So we have the Redemptor Dreadnought. I'm going to sum that up in just a sec as well. Just putting my Tyrant Guard over here on the table. So they are ready to go for our next and final battle, which is Salamanders and Raven Guard. Anyways, so I'm going to, I'll do it live right now. Might as well pull off the camera. We're talking, so here we go. So this is what remains here. We have the Swarmlord and the Redemptor Dreadnought facing each other off. That is it, though. It's a stalemate. The Crimson Fists are done. It is now going to flip over to the Tyranid fighting the Black Templar. And I'm going to get that in the tray. We'll do the shoot first, and then we'll come back and do that. But we have the 3 Stern Guard veterans, Pedro Cantor, the 5 Intercessors, and the Redemptor Dreadnought going into the 3rd and final wave against the big, bad Tyranid models that we've seen in the last couple of games. All right, so here we go. This is the Pyrovore ranged attack versus the Blade Guard veteran squad. I was checking their ability, so I'm not missing anything. Apologies, because most people like play 1 army or maybe 2 armies, and they know them like the back of their hand. I have tons of armies. As you guys have seen, I'm a collector, I'd say, more so than a gamer, and I learn as I play, especially when rules are changing. And there are so many abilities and penalties and bonuses, and some characters do this to other characters and this and that, so it's sometimes super hard to track. So I'm going to do the best I can, and we're kind of learning here together as we play along. 'Cause even though I collect Crimson Fists, they used to have a generic Space Marine profile. Now they have chapter specific stuff the Black Templar do, so I'm really trying to stay on top of it. That changes all the time as well, so it's tough to stay on top when you're playing with a bunch of different armies. But I have checked the Blade Guard veterans here just to make sure that they're having the best crack at this. They do have the shields of the chapter, so each time an invulnerable saving throw is made for a model in this unit, roll a saving throw of 1. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case here. It actually could be, because the Pyrovore is going to be doing a -1 AP, which will bring the Blade Guard veterans up to a 4+. So they're going to be able to reroll a saving throw of 1. The other thing with the rules sometimes and the abilities is that they're not clear. So Shields of the Chapter, each time an invulnerable saving throw is made, so I understand it's an invulnerable saving throw, is made for a model in this unit, reroll a saving throw of 1. So from what I'm seeing there is against 1 model, you can reroll a save throw of 1, or is it for the unit and each model gets that? Or if they've had to make, 3 damage saves, or, is it 1 for each of those? It's a little tricky sometimes, so I try to interpret the rules the best I can. But we're going to get to this now. So this is the Flame Spurt of the Pyrovore. It is 12 inches, definitely in range. It is a D6 +1 attack. So that's not a bad roll. It's going to be 4 + 1, which is 5. So this is the amount of attacks we get. It's an automatic hit too, because it is a torrent weapon, like a flamer or a pyre blaster or a pyre cannon or anything like that, pyre pistol. So it is strength 6 versus toughness 4. This is going to be 3s to wound. It's also twin linked, so I can re-roll this. And you know what? I'm going to check abilities here just in case before we get into this. Okay, perfect. So there's nothing here that's going to really affect any rerolls or anything like that, but I can do this for twin linked. So this was 3s that were required. We have all of these good to go. This guy I get to reroll and pick that up. It is a -1 to AP, so I'm going to now use this for our Blade Guard veterans. It's an invulnerable save now of 4+ because of those shields, and from what I'm reading here in the rules, the shields of the chapter, I can reroll a saving throw of 1. So if I roll 1 here, I can reroll it. If I roll more than 1, it's not the case. So it's not like you can reroll everything. They needed a 4 to save, so a 5, a 4, a 6, those were saved. These were 2 3s. I can't reroll that because they're not a 1. But they have been wounds, and that is 2 wounds allocated to the Blade Guard veterans. And they're still both alive. One has 1 wound. It's important. I need those guys to be facing off against the final enemies in the 3rd and final wave. I'm going to roll the Von Rhein's Leapers with the Crusader squad off camera, because that's going to be a lot of rolls, and then we're going to finish this one up with the Sword Brethren versus the Von Rhein's Leapers, and we'll see if those Sword Brethren can survive the onslaught. All right, so just summing up what's happened there before we get into the Sword Brethren versus the Von Rhein's Leapers. We saw the Pyrovore in the tray against the Blade Guard veterans. Over here, 4 of the Neophyte have been killed. And actually 1 wound's been administered to one of the Crusaders because that had to be passed along. So the Crusader squad fought back. they were able to wound one of the Von Ryan's Leapers, and then it was actually Chaplain Grimaldus who finished it off. That was the one right here. With their toughness 5, though, it's difficult because the close combat weapons have a strength 4, so you need higher classed weapons to be able to really penetrate the Von Ryan's Leaper's armor. But that's how it stands right now. And again, this is exactly what these Tyranid waves are supposed to do before the final third wave, is to weaken up the troops here on the side of the Imperium. And that is exactly what they did. So we just lost 4 of the Neophyte firearms, and we have a initiated brother wounded. I might be attaching Chaplain Grimaldus over to the Sword Brethren for the last turn because he can really soup up the melee weapons. I should have checked his profile a little bit closer when I started. I was hoping that that would be able to help out the Crusader squad just because they do have a lower hand-to-hand combat ability, but I should have had him in there right off the bat because what's going on now in the tray is this fight here. So those Von Ryan's Leapers have the initiative, and if Chaplain Grimaldus was in here buffing these guys out, I think they'd have a better chance on the counterattack. So they've got to weather, it's going to be 6, 12, 18 attacks from the Von Ryan's Leapers, and then hopefully get a counter attack in. And the one with the lightning claws on the side here, Sword Brother only has 1 wound remaining. So over the tray, let's get this rolled off, and that will finish off the second wave of this fight. Alrighty, here we go. So this is the Von Ryan's Leapers versus the 3 Sword Brethren. The Sword Brethren, great models. Only 5 of them. I think I should have maybe brought in 2 squads of them, but I think the point value would have been too high. That's why I took the Blade Guard veterans. But what can you do? Maybe I could have reduced the Scout squad to 5, but I think your Crusader squad has to be 10. So I did it for a reason. This is the Von Ryan's Leapers Leaper Talons. It is 6 attacks per model, so 18 attacks in total. These things are great Space Marine killers. I would even say that they're great Terminator killers as long as you're not facing off against Deathwing Knights. Here we go. So this is hitting on a 3+. And that's a lot of attacks through. So we do have some 1s here. Remove those from the tray. This is our hit pool here. I'm going to pick these up. It is that strength 5 versus toughness 4, 3s to wound. Okay, a few more fell off. There we go. And this is the big one. It is a -1 to AP. So the Sword Brethren do not have an invulnerable. I'm going to use these now to save for the Sword Brethren. It's going to be 4+ saves. Oh, geez. So these ones have been saved. So I'll just move them over to the side here. So we have a 4, 5, 5, 6. Take that out. These, though, luckily only 1 damage per. Woof. I'm going to have to figure out which model I want to keep in here because I think 2 of them are dead. So from this, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If the Von Ryan's Leapers in the future, their profile gets changed and they somehow get 2 damage, it's going to be lights out. They're going to be able to kill like almost a full squad, I think, of Sword Brethren or Intercessors or anything that they'd need to. There have been 6 wounds administered. I'm just going to go over here and check. So yeah, we have our Thunderhammer is dead. I'm actually going to kill our Sergeant because he has a power weapon. I want those lightning claws. You know what? I should actually check and see first. Just make sure that I'm getting the best bang for my buck here. Twin lightning claws, strength 5, 5 attacks, twin length. Yes. So what's going on here is there was 1 wound already administered to the lightning claw. I'm going to... you're supposed to have that wound taken off of the model it's allocated to, but I want to give these guys a bit of a chance because we've literally lost one of the best hand-to-hand combat punches for the Black Templar here. And in doing that, I'm going to have to change up my strategy with Chaplain Grimaldus. He might actually be staying with the Crusader squad or might switch over to the Blade Guard veterans. We'll have to see. So while we're live, this is the lightning claws of the last remaining Sword Brethren. He has 1 wound left. It's going to be 5 attacks. So this guy's bloody. He's beaten to a pulp, but he's still fighting here, and he is going to survive the second wave. It is 5 attacks hitting on a 2+. Please, 2s. That is really good. So if those had been 1s, which we've been kind of rolling some of this game, I would have lost a ton of attacks. It is a strength 5 versus toughness 5. So this is going to be 4s to wound, but I can reroll these because they're twin linked, and that's why I kept this guy in as opposed to the Thunder Hammer or the Mastercrafted power weapon. So we need 4s. And I definitely need that. Only one attack is through right now to take a wound. And I didn't pick up any extras. So maybe I should have stuck with the Thunder Hammer because it's a strength 8. Anyways, no, I'm going to stand by my decision. It is one attack through. It is a -2 to AP. That's going to bring the Von Rein's Leapers up to a 6+ invulnerable. And they did not save. Sadly, only 1 damage, but he was able to avenge his brothers a little bit here and bring the Von Rein's Leaper down to 1 wound. So I will show you guys the table here. This is where the stuff was just happening. So we saw the Sword Brethren go down there to the Von Rein's Leapers. They will be removed now because we're going to be moving into the 3rd wave. But the Lightning Claw was able to strike back, take that last Von Rein's Leaper on the right there down to 1 wound. Not a great kill count though for these Black Templar during the 2nd turn. They were able to kill the 1 squad of Von Rein's Leapers here across the turn, but there's still 3 remaining at the end of this, and they did take some, I won't say devastating wounds, but they lost 4 of their pretty much bolt guns to be able to use for this last round. So I've got to really strategize here. I'm going to be placing the Imperium models out first, removing these Tyranid. For the total there too, I could show you guys. This is the kill rate for the 2nd wave. So we had the Crimson Fists take out the Raveners. The Black Templar did take out 3 of the Von Rein's Leapers. And then our Redemptor Dreadnought, even though busted up, probably leaking a bunch of oil and possibly blood, was able to kill the 3 Tyrant Guard. Swarmlord was still alive. And then this is the casualties from the Imperium side. So we have those 4 Neophytes at the back. We have 1 of the Blade Guard veterans, 4 of the Sword Brethren, and then we have 2 intercessors, or 2 of the Stern Guard veterans from the Crimson Fists. So the 3rd wave is coming in here. That is our Tyrannofex, Screamer Killer, Haruspex, Norn Assimilator, Screamer Killer, and Malceptor. I'm going to look at the table, place my Imperial models, and then as I am playing for the Hive Mind as well, I'll be placing the Tyranid models here where it suits the Tyranid best. So I'll get these models off. The Crimson Fist's been doing pretty good. Black Templar not as great, but let's see how this 3rd and final wave goes. The 3rd wave of Tyranid is set. These are the big boys, and it does not look like it's going to bode very well for our Imperium models. The Haruspex is here facing down Chaplain Grimaldus. I have added him to buff out that remaining Sword Brethren with the Lightning Claws. Grimaldus can actually not lead Blade Guard veterans, so that's probably why I didn't place him with them at the start, but there are 2 of them left, Chaplain Grimaldus and a Sword Brethren. Haruspex has a lot of wounds, a lot of toughness, a lot of attacks, so we'll see how that goes. Over here, really not good. The 2 Screamer Killers are facing down the beat up Sword Brethren, Crusader Squad. So there's only 6 of them remaining with the Sword Brethren leader up front. And we've seen that the Screamer Killers are a good mix of range and hand-to-hand, so they can either blast them with the Bioplasmic Scream or get into hand-to-hand combat and shred them. Over here, this might be the end of our Redemptor Dreadnought. We'll have to see. He is facing down a Rupture Cannon loaded out Tyrannofex. This thing is for cutting apart Baneblade tanks, I would say Imperium Knights, stuff like that. So a Redemptor, we'll see how he does. Maybe I'll roll really shitty for the Tyrannofex and he might be okay. Up here too, the Intercessors, you guys thought, oh, they're going to be in that tower, they're going to be okay. They are facing down the Norn Assimilator, who actually does have quite a potent ranged attack. Not going to be able to get into hand-to-hand combat unless I want him to jump down and get into it with Pedro Cantor and his 3 remaining Stern Guard veterans. But they have their hands full with the Malceptor, who also has quite a good ranged attack. And if they do want to get into hand-to-hand, it's ready to do that also. So this last round is not looking great for our Imperium forces. They had a great first round. Second round was a little tough, especially for the Black Templar, and this 3rd one might be the end of them. We'll see how this goes, though. The luck of the game is all in the roll, so you never know. Maybe the Emperor's going to show them some grace and get some super good rolls in. But I'm excited to get this one going, and this is the 3rd and final wave. the Tyranid versus Crimson Fists, and Tyranid versus Black Templar. So not too many models left here for the Imperium, so I did the moves all in once and we will sum them up here. So the Redemptor Dreadnought has not moved. It's going to be putting all of its firepower down onto the Tyrannofex. Same with the Intercessor Marines up in the Prometheum Tower. They're going to be firing their bolt rifles into the Norn Assimilator, hoping it's going to do some kind of damage. Same thing down here. The Sternguard veterans are also going to be firing upon the Malceptor to do some wounds. Over here, again, bolt rifles, Pyre pistol, Pyre blaster versus Screamer killers. We'll see maybe a few wounds, but there's no point in these Marines getting into hand-to-hand combat because they're probably not going to be able to penetrate. They just don't have the weaponry for it. And then the Screamer killers would be able to fight back. So it's going to be range for these guys. Over here, last one to be summed up. I have Chaplain Grimaldus and the Bladeguard veterans and his servitor retinue and the sword brethren that's left here with one wound that have all gone in with the Harrowspecs. The Harrowspecs is probably going to survive a lot of these attacks, but I'm hoping that Grimaldus is going to be able to buff out that lone sword brethren and hopefully take a few wounds off this thing before they go down, because it will be able to counterattack, and then it's going to flip over to the Tyranid. We will start over here, though, with the range. I think I might do the Redemptor Dreadnought on camera, do the other two off camera, and we'll sum that up in just a sec when that's all finished. And then it is going to be going over to the Black Templar. So let's see what kind of kills these Crimson Fists can get in the final wave here. The bigger enemies have a much higher toughness, so those weapons that were doing great against the first wave and the second wave probably not going to go as well here unless they get some absolutely miraculous rolls. We are going to cover the Redemptor Dreadnought firing all of its ranged firepower into the Tyrannofex to try to weaken it. I'm going to do the other two off camera. We'll sum that up really quick and then flip it over to the Black Templar for their shoot and their hand-to-hand combat. There's only 2 units over there that are still alive. Well, 2 chunks of units that are alive. So let's get this started. We're going to start off with the Heavy Onslaught Gatling Cannon. So that's going to be 12 shots. Let's grab my dice here. 3, 6, 9. My Wall of Martyrs fell apart too. So 3, 6, 9, 12. This is our first one here. Heavy Onslaught Gatling Cannon 12, hitting on a 3+. Not a bad roll. So we had quite a few go through. Strength 6 in this case though versus toughness 12. It's going to be 6s to wound. And we did get a couple of 6s, so I'll take it. Not the Oath of Moment target. That's going to be the Malceptor, who is, with the Sternguard veterans and Pedro Cantor, so not going to be able to do any additional rolls or hit rolls or anything like that. But it is 0 AP, so it's going to be 2 saves here for the Tyrannofex. It has a 2+ save. Ooh, and look at that. Just like that, 1 wound has been taken. So a little bit of luck. 1 was saved, 1 was taken. The massive Tyrannofex had one of the heavy Gatling rounds plink through its armor, so it goes from 16 down to 15 wounds. Still lots of weapons though for the Redemptor Dreadnoughts. Let's see what we can do. Next one up, I'll do the Icarus rocket pods. We're just going to move down the weapons profile of the Dreadnought here. It's a D3, so we're going to split this dice in half. So 4 divided by 2, we got 2 dice in total. Hitting on a 3+ now. If one didn't. Strength 8 though. A little bit higher. It's going to be 5 instead of 6 to wound. Didn't get it. So the Icarus rocket pod just kind of fizzled out. We do have the Onslaught Gatling Cannon here. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8. There is a weapon that you can load out on the Redemptor Dreadnought. I actually have it on my Salamander variant. You're not going to see it in this battle series, but it's called the Macro Plasma Incinerator. It's a strength 9, so it probably would have been the best thing to take on a Tyrannofex, but the Tyrannofex is literally a tank. Like you're looking again at a Baneblade or a Knight. So very, very tough enemy. This is going to be 8 attacks hitting on a 3+ for the Onslaught Gatling Cannon. And a few fell off. So this one is a lower strength, strength 5 versus toughness 12. Still going to be 6s to wound. And didn't get a couple this time. Got 1 though. Let's see if the luck continues here. It is going to be a 2+ save. whoops, I rolled off camera. I'm just pulling it over. It was a 4. So the Tyrannofex has avoided any wounds from the Onslaught Gatling Cannon. Last but not least, we have our twin Stormbolters. This is going to be, there's 2 of them. So we have Rapid Fire 2 hitting on a 3+. So 3 of the 4 are through. It is twin link, so I can reroll this if I have to. Strength 4, toughness 12. Gonna need 6s to wound. Got 1 6. Let's see if I can reroll this and get another couple. Nope. So 1 is through here too. 0 AP. It's gonna be a 2+. This time I'll try to keep it in the tray. It was saved with a 3. So the Tyrannofex has taken all of the weaponry of the Redemptor Dreadnought, taken 1 wound. So it's going to be firing with its Rupture Cannon next. That's going to be after the Black Templar go, but it is a strength 18 weapon. You have to be able to roll it though. It's going to be 2+ because it's a heavy. It hasn't moved, so we'll see what the Redemptor can do. We'll get to that in a sec, but I'm going to finish off the rest of the shoots here. So we have the Crimson Fist Intercessors up in the Prometheum Tower firing with probably 20 shots still against the Norn Assimilator. And then we have the Sternguard Veterans with the bolt rifle. There's the Pyre Blaster, Pyre Cannon, bolt pistol. And then we have Dorn's Arrow, which is on the gauntlet of Pedro Cantor. Not on his Power Fist, but on his gauntlet. So let's see how that goes. I'll be back in a sec to sum everything up. So that concludes the game for the Crimson Fists. It is moving over to the Tyranid here in just a second. The Sternguard, or the Crimson Fist Intercessors fired into the Norn Assimilator. Nothing happened. I was really hoping with the amount of shots they got that there might just be 1 lucky roll, but they needed 6 to wound, so nothing happened. Down here though, Pedro Cantor and his Sternguard Veterans actually did great against the Malceptor. They brought it down to 6 wounds. And it was actually Dorn himself that administered 4 of those wounds, or through Dorn's arrow. Pedro Cantor was the one that wounded the Malceptor the most. The Pyre Cannon did okay as well. Didn't have as many rolls as I was hoping for. And that is the result though. So they at least were able to chip some wounds off of the Malceptor. You guys saw on the tray, the Redemptor Dreadnought over here fired every single one of its weapon systems for range into the Tyrannofex and did chip 1 wound off, so it's down to 15. But now it's moving back over to the Tyranid. I think we're going to get these all in the tray for the range attacks of these Tyranid. They're not going to get into hand-to-hand combat. They're going to use their range here to try to kill as many Crimson Fist models as they can and then suck up that biomass. So here we go. This is the Tyranid final turn on the Crimson Fist side of the table. I was actually just reading through the Tyrannofex abilities, and there is the Resilient Organism. It was used last battle. So once per battle, when an attack is allocated to this model, you can change the damage characteristic of that attack to 0. I didn't lock it in. We'll give the Redemptor that 1 wound, but in reality, it could still be at its full 16. And again, this thing is like a living tank. So we're going to see if the Redemptor can survive this. I really hope it can, but the Rupture Cannon is a hell of a weapon. It does, however, have to roll high enough to shoot, and it's only 2 shots. There's no extra, D6 plus anything. There's no 4 or 5. It's literally 2 shots. It is a heavy profile. The Tyrannofex has not moved, so it is going to be hitting on a 2+, usually a 3+, but the heavy bonus helps with that. So this is 2s we're looking for if you guys are cheering Tyranid. Got them both. And this is the scary one. It is strength 18 versus toughness 10. It doesn't quite double up the toughness, so this is going to be 3s to wound. Against pretty much anything out here, or if there's Terminators, or if there was a smaller Dreadnought, it would have definitely been 2s to wound here, but this is going to be 3s. And 1 fell off. There you go. So there's no twin link, there's no reroll. This is through. It is a -4 to AP. That brings the Redemptor Dreadnought up to a 6+ save. So that's crazy. And almost did it. So it got 5. I needed a 6, so the Redemptor has taken wounds. The Rupture Cannon is D6 plus 6 wounds. So if these had both fired and everything was good to go, it would be possibly 24 wounds that could be allocated here. So let's see how this goes. And that is the worst case scenario. So that is a d6 plus 6. We have 12 damage that has gone through. That would have killed the Redemptor Dreadnought outright from the start. It doubled up the wounds that were administered. It had 6 left. So our Redemptor has fallen to the ruptured cannon of the Tyrannofex. That is a very big model done for the Crimson Fists. So the Tyrannofex has done exactly what it's supposed to do. And that's why I kept this variant out here. I do have the Fleshboar Hive variant that I think will be taking on the lighter armored Raven Guard and Salamanders in the final battle, but I kept the Rupture Cannon out here for this exact reason. I'm going to turn the camera off, just get the profiles up here for the Norn Assimilator and the Intercessors, and then we will do the Malceptor and the Sternguard Veterans and Pedro as well. Just kind of break it up so I'm not rambling on here, trying to get stuff set up and dice ready and stuff. So we'll be back in just a sec. Okay, so ready to go. This is the next range attack. It's the Norn Assimilator. Very similar to that Rupture Cannon. It is 2 attacks. Hitting on a 2+ this time. There's no heavy. It just has a better, I guess, aiming ability than the Rupture Cannon of the Tyrannofex. So looking for 2s here. Both are through. It is Strength 12 versus Toughness 4 of the Intercessors. So this is going to be 2s to wound. Got both of those two. Not good. It's a -3 to AP. That brings our Intercessors up to a 6+. They do not have an invulnerable save. So let's see if we can make some 6s here. Didn't. So this is D6 plus 1 for the attacks that have gone through. And let's roll 2 dice here. We're going to add these up. So we have 3, 4, 7, 8. So 8 attacks total. It has not killed all the Intercessors. It has killed 4 of the 5. They have 2 wounds apiece. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8 wounds gone. The Intercessor Sergeant has survived the battle, but he has lost all of the Intercessors around him. And if this went on for one more round, I don't think they would have survived. So now I'm going to do the same thing. We're moving over to the Malceptor versus the Sternguard Veterans and Pedro. I'm going to get the dice all ready to go, and then we'll do that one. So this is it, the last turn for the Tyranid of Wave 3 against the Crimson Fists. So far, we do have the Intercessor Sergeant who's definitely going to survive this battle. The Redemptor just went down as we saw on the tray. I'll sum all this up when we get back to the table in a second. We have the Malceptor with the Psychic Overload. So it is a D6 plus 3 to start. That's going to tell us how many attacks this thing's going to actually do. So that is not bad. 4 in total. So we do the 1 that was rolled plus the 3. So there we go. It's hitting on a 3+. 1 has fallen off. I don't think there's any reroll abilities. So there is something called encephalic diffusion. Oh my god. While an enemy unit is within 6 inches of this model, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, subtract 1 from the hit roll, and if that enemy unit is below half strength, subtract 1 from the wound roll as well. So I didn't know that. It still has enough wounds. There's also something that Pedro could have done to help out the guy, so I'm going to say that that balances itself out. Once again, this is way too many abilities to try to track. But yeah, so we do have these attacks that have gone through. It is a Strength 10 attack versus Toughness 4. It's going to be 2s to wound. All those are through. I was just checking the abilities to see if there's any reroll stuff, but I came across the encephalic diffusion. Anyways, there we go. These 2 are through. I'm going to grab 2 dice. It is a -2 to AP. That brings our Sternguard Veterans up to a 5+ save. And womp womp, that's not good. It's 3 damage per. So we have 6 wounds that have been administered. We have lost 2, 4, 5. There's only 5 wounds remaining from the Sternguard Veterans, so they have all been killed. Pedro Cantor does survive this battle as well, because there is no more Tyranid attacks, no extra attacks. So we'll take this right off while we're live and go to the table. So the Malceptor, very good creature, actually. It's got some okay hand-to-hand, but the range attack of it is quite good. So all that remains is Pedro Cantor. He does have his 5 wounds. and there's an Intercessor Sergeant in the tower as well that has survived. So the Northern Assimilator was able to kill a lot of those Intercessors. The Maleceptor killed all of the remaining Stern Guard veterans, and then over on this side, our Tyrannofax with that rupture cannon, even with only one shot coming down, it was able to take out the Redemptor Dreadnought. We now move over here. It is the Black Templar's time to hopefully shine. We're going to do the shoot phase here. I'm really hoping they can chip a couple wounds off these Screamer Killers, and then I have to decide if the Tyranid are going to do a ranged attack here with the Screamer Killers or jump into hand-to-hand combat for melee. I know last time the melee was more guaranteed, but there was, I think, more models as well last time, so I'll have to look at that when that switches back over. And then we are going to get into this hand-to-hand combat scrap after that. So I think I will get this in camera. We'll do the range for the Black Templar squad, and then we'll move it over here to the hand-to-hand combat, and then the Harrowspex is going to be able to fight back if it survives. So here we go. We're going to start up with the range attacks here from the Crusader squad. I was just checking out Grimaldus' stuff too for later to make sure that I have all those abilities down. So this is the Crusader squad versus the Screamer Killer. Screamer Killers, I'm not sure they're going to really be able to do much here, but I'm definitely going to try. So in that unit we have 1, 2, 3, 4 bolt rifles remaining. So it is a heavy. It doesn't have the special ability of those other of the Intercessor Crimson Fists. So 1, 2, 3. We got 8 dice. It is going to be hitting on a 2+. These two fall out. Strength 4, toughness 9. It's going to be 6s to wound. Come on. Spinning. No. So we've got 1, 6. It is that -1 to AP. The Screamer Killers do not have an invulnerable. It brings up to a 3+. Let's see what we can do. Saved it. So the Screamer Killers are unaffected by the bolt rifle. There is the Pyre Pistol and the Pyre Blaster remaining. So let's get the Pyre Pistol out here. See how many attacks we're getting. 2, not great. I'm hoping the Pyre Blaster is going to do more, but we'll carry on here. So it automatically hits because it's a torrent weapon. Strength 4, toughness 9, 6s to wound again. Didn't get it. Last but not least, we have the Pyre Blaster coming from the final Crusader here. Let's see how it goes. 5, much better roll. So this is how many attacks we're going to get this time. Automatic hit. It is strength 5 versus toughness 9, so 5s now instead of 6s to wound. And still not great, but a little bit better. So 2 have gone through. It does have a 0 AP though. That kind of sucks. It's going to be 2+ saves for the Screamer Killer. And 2 and a 4. I was really hoping that was going to flip to 1, but it has saved. The Screamer Killers have had nothing happen to them, and it's going to be over to them in a sec. But first thing is first. We're going to get this in just a second here is Grimaldus, the lone Sword Brethren, the 2 Blade Guard veterans versus the Harrowspex. So this is where Grimaldus is the strongest. I'm actually going to start this off with him to try to get some wounds down on this Harrowspex. So we have the Temple Relics. With that, I'm going to be locking in the water from the Stout of Elucidation, which will help himself, and it's going to help the Sword Brethren in front of him. So that's going to improve the armor penetration characteristics of melee weapons equipped by these models in this unit by 1. I'm hoping that's going to be able to help in getting through this Harrowspex armor. We also have the Templar Vows, and this is what's been locked in from the start. It's going to be accept any challenge, no matter the odds. So each time a model in this unit, so in this case it's Grimaldus and the Sword Brethren, makes a melee attack, if the strength characteristic of that attack is less than or equal to the toughness characteristic of the target, add 1 to the wound roll. In this case, definitely the strength is much lower than the toughness of the Harrowspex. So we're going to start it up here with Grimaldus, the head chaplain of the Black Templar, and he's going to be attacking with his Artificer Crozius, and then he does actually have his servitors with him as well. So let's get this going. I was going to call them Cenobites. That is Hellraiser. That's not Warhammer 40k. Here we go. Artificer Crozius. This is hitting on a 2+. The armor penetration goes from -2 to -3. So we need our 2s here. And I'm just going to check again, make sure everything's good here. Yes, and adding 1 to the wound roll. So in this case, it's going to be a 1 to the wound roll also. So this guy does fall off, can't reroll that, but these are through. This is now strength 6 versus toughness 11, so it's going to be 5s to wound still. Wow, what a roll from the chaplain. He's holding it down. So these are all through. This would usually be a -2 to AP. It's now a -3, which brings the Haruspex up to a 6+ save. It does not have an invulnerable, and it's going to be 3 damage per attack that goes through instead of 2. So that is phenomenal. I'm going to switch it out for red dice here. So we are looking at 6s here for the Haruspex. Wow, and a fucking terrible roll. So this might be... Grimaldus might have done it himself here. Let's see. So we have 3, 6, 9, 12 wounds that have been administered to the Haruspex. It goes from 14 down to 2. Man, I should have had this guy lined up with those sword brethren right off the bat. So yeah, I'm just checking again. 12, so it's down to 2 wounds. I think it's also going to be taking a penalty for that as well, but we still have all of the rest of the Black Templar around it. So let's switch it over to, well, we still have the servitors with them. Oh, they're called Cenobite servitors. Maybe that's what I was looking at. So it is Cenobite. So it's Hellraiser and it's Warhammer 40k. Anyways, close combat weapons. There's 3 of them. Don't know if they're going to do much, but they are being souped up here. So let's see. 4 pluses. 2 fell off. However, strength 3, toughness 11. It's going to be 6 to wound. Didn't get it. That's okay. I'm a little nervous, but not too bad. The Sword Brethren is also going to be taking the addition of that, and this is the Lightning Claws. So I kept those in because I have the Twin Linked. It's strength 5, not an amazing strength, but hoping that that additional -1 to AP and +1 to damage is going to help here. So I'll grab the 5 dice for our Sword Brethren. Here we go. Twin Lightning Claws going at it, hitting on a 2+. 1 fell off. 4 through, strength 5, toughness 11, 5s to wound. No, 6s to wound. It's doubled. Got one through. That might be all we need. This is going to be a -3 to AP because of that ability from Grimaldus. So it's going to be a 6+ save for the Haruspex. And it did not make it. So with Grimaldus buffing out his Sword Brethren here and himself, they have been able to kill the Haruspex, which is actually phenomenal. So this is usually 1 damage with the Twin Lightning Claw, but with that ability you add 1 to the damage characteristic, so 2 wounds are administered, and that means the Haruspex has been killed. So that is a big plus for the kill tally. I'm going to move that over to the other table here to make sure that we're tracking that. I'm going to reset my token here to 14 wounds for the next time this thing's out on the table. Yeah, so that was incredible. We now have the Screamer Killers, though, that are going to be taking on the Crusader squad. So I will come to the table, sum that up really quick, and we'll get over to what's going to happen with the Screamer Killers. So there they are, still in their kind of semicircle. They've just taken out the Haruspex. Didn't actually need the Blade Guard veterans to help out. Grimaldus, he's survived a lot of battles, very similar to Pedro Cantor, actually. Some battles that were looking like they were going to be lost. He was able to rally the troops, and that's what a lot of his artifacts are from. So he has the banner. This pillar is from a church that fell that was a Black Templar church, and they carry that sort of in remembrance of what happened there. But he was able to soup himself up big time. He was able to soup up that Sword Brethren on the right, and they were able to kill a full 14 wound Haruspex by themselves. So absolutely phenomenal. Wish I had had him in there at the start doing some of that, but the first 2 waves are kind of more for range. This last one, it's almost like you have to get into melee, and that brings me over to our last fight here. I've looked at the Screamer Killers just when we were off camera there for a sec. They do have a D6 +3 for the Bioplasmic Scream, but I have 10 wounds guaranteed, or 10 attacks almost guaranteed from the start. So I am going to put them into hand-to-hand combat with the remaining Crusader squad. So what happens with the Bioplasmic Scream is it's a d6 plus 3. So there's a possibility you could get as low a roll as 4 for each of them. So it would be 4, 8. Where in this case, I'm able to roll 20 dice for the hand-to-hand because it's 10 attacks each for the Screamer Killers. And then from there, if they get the initiative, it's very, very difficult to beat them. But let's see. These are Black Templars. They're really tough. They got a lot of fight left in them. And let's see if they can take on these Screamer Killers and win over the tray. And that is going to finish up this battle. So this is it. We know that the Black Templar probably have the biggest survivor rate so far, which I did not think was going to happen because we have those 2 Blade Guard veterans, Grimaldus and his retinue, and the Sword Brethren who have all survived. In the previous games, there was pretty much only 1 or 2 models that survived per chapter. In this case, the Crimson Fists only have 2 as well. So they have 1 Intercessor Sergeant and Pedro Cantor, their chapter master. So they only have 2. They're tied with the other chapters. Let's see if the Black Templar can have any even more guys survive. So this is the Screamer Killer Talons. It's 10 attacks hitting on a 3+. I'll roll them one at a time so we'll be able to kind of get this going. So these did not hit. These are through. It is a strength 10 attack versus a toughness of 4, 2s to wound. And can't reroll these, so 2 did fall off. These are through though. So we'll grab 4 dice for the Templar to save. It is a -2 to AP that brings our Templar up to a 5+ save. They did get 2 saves out of it. Not bad, guys. Not bad. These 2 are through, so much better than what could have happened initially. It's 3 damage per, though. So we have 3, 6. That's going to be 3 of the Marines taken out. And there's a 1 wound token as well that's going to have to transfer over to somebody else in here. Actually, it's going to stay with the guy that's with right now. So we currently have the Sword Brethren with the Pyre Pistol and the Power Axe. We have the Pyre Blaster, and we have 1 of the Initiated Brothers with a Bolt Rifle. I'm removing these 3. They have been killed. I'm just going to put them in front of the Neophytes that were lost earlier. There we go. And that was only the first Screamer Killer, so we still have 1 left. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Let's see if they can survive this and get a bit of a fight back. Hitting on a 3+. Hey, there we go. A lot fell off there. So more than half fell off. 4 attacks are through. -2 to AP. It's going to be -2 to AP. Strength 10 versus toughness 4, 2s to wound. Jumping ahead of myself here. Another one falls off. Now these are -2 to AP. So that's going to be 5+ saves from the remaining Crusader squad. And again, another one is saved. So that's 3 damage that was saved. This is, however, 3, 6 damage. They have fallen. So the remaining Crusade squad that was over here had 5 wounds total. 6 wounds were administered to them. Those Screamer Killer Talons are just crazy powerful. So that is the end of our Templar squad. I'll pull the camera off and we'll get this done while we're here. So start with the Crimson Fists. We do have Pedro Cantor, their chapter master, still alive. Up in the Prometheum Tower, we do have the 1 Intercessor Sergeant. Over here, this is the biggest unit that has actually survived, and that is because of Chaplain Grimaldus in there. They have 3 units actually in total that have survived. So you have your Blade Guard Veterans, which are 2 models. You have the Sword Brethren, which is 1, used to be 5, and then Chaplain Grimaldus. But he was attached to them, so that would have been 1 unit, but there's 3 that have survived, and it's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 models. Over here, we just saw on the tray, the Screamer Killers with the initiative were able to get in. I was really hoping the Crusader squad would be able to at least get 1 fight back and take a wound off, but that was not the case. Yeah, we got this Tyranid. We saw it decimate the Redemptor Dreadnought. There's our Sergeant Intercessor in the tower. I'll bring you guys over and show you guys the casualties by the end of this one for both sides. So pretty, I'd say the casualty side, not as high as some of the others. The Imperial Fists and Dark Angels, I think, are still in first place with that one, but they didn't have as many surviving models as these guys do. So they're 20, 40, 51, 61 Hormagaunts killed, the 3 Ripper Swarms. They were able to kill the Tyrant Guard. They were able to kill a unit of Von Ryan's Leapers. They were able to kill the unit of Raveners. And Grimaldus with his retinue and Sword Brethren were able to kill the Harrowspecks. Their losses, though, quite high. We had the Crusader squad we just saw wiped out. One of the Blade Guard veterans fell. The Sword Brethren, one of them is left, but in their entire squad is pretty much done. The Stern Guard veterans were killed from the side of the Crimson Fists. Almost all of the Intercessors. And their prize piece here, the Redemptor Dreadnought, fell to the Rupture Cannon. But that is it for this one. So that was a blast. The Surrounded series, I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I might continue doing it in the future. Next weekend I have something going on. Super Bowl's on today. And watching some Olympics as well. But this is going to be our final force. Not sure when I'll get these guys out on the table. Very different from what we've seen. The most numerous army, I believe, but also the most lightly armored. So we have 2 scout squads for the Raven Guard. We have Eliminator Marines. We have Aethon Shan. We have in the back here our Salamanders. So pretty good there. They've all got Pyroblasters. So this is going to be a pretty good force, and we have Vulcan Hestan commanding them. So that's going to be our last fight here against the Tyranid 3-wave army, and I'll get that out to you guys as soon as I can. Got to edit this one up, though, get it up on the YouTube, and we'll keep going. Thank you guys again so much for watching. It's been an absolute blast doing these. And then after the Surrounded is all done, we're probably going to be getting into our next narrative campaign, and it's going to be the World Eaters Coronate Berserkers. I have to get the points together for that, see who they're facing off. So it's going to be a flip of what I've usually done. It's going to be a Chaos Space Marine army and their demons versus a whole bunch of Imperium and Xenos forces. That's going to be super cool too. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed Battle 3 of Surrounded, Crimson Fists, and Black Templar versus the Tyranid. See you guys soon. Bye-bye.